YouTube friends. Please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The OneMic Show. And now follow us on Instagram at OneMic Show. And we're also on TikTok. We're going to be taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. The number again is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Now on the show tonight, we are recapping the unfolding Kenya Tanzania diplomatic feud. What started from the treason trial of Tundu Lissu that led to the deportation of Kenyan activists and a big online firestorm. We'll revisit the scolding of Kenyans from the Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, and we'll also dive into the legal and human rights issue at play. We'll explore what the East African Community Protocol stands for as far as free movement of citizens in the region is concerned. So please start dropping your comments below and tell us where you're tuned in from and what you want to hear from the conversation tonight. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu, Machachari, Mleta Habari, DJ Bandit. Na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Micah zake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawy. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now this hour, we are going to be diving into the simmering Kenya-Tanzania feud that's had the region buzzing. From Tundu Lissu's explosive treason trial to the dramatic arrest and deportation of Boniface Mwangi. We'll explore what Tanzanian law says, if Kenya crossed a line, and whether the East African dream is slipping away. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from and what you want to hear from the show tonight. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawy. It is Friday the 30th of May, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You already know the handles. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. Micah, sports anchor Micah, and DJ OmoshFaya will be joining us via Zoom. And also not forgetting that our producer is none other than Ubelwa Bandio, who will come in and out of the conversation because this conversation has a lot to touch with Tanzania, and he's an interested party in this conversation. And yes, you all know the online firestorm that has been happening. So tonight, we want to dive headfirst into the fiery Kenya-Tanzanian feud that's exploded in the past 2 weeks. What began as a simple show of solidarity but turned into a diplomatic spectacle. Now, Kenyan activists, including Boniface Mwangi, were denied entry, deported, and allegedly tortured while trying to attend Tanzanian opposition leaders Tundu Lissu's treason trial. What followed was a vicious social media firestorm and assault. Now, Kenyans online unleashed pure fury, trashing President Samia Suluhu, mocking her speeches, and even ridiculing Tanzanian influencer, and nothing was spared on the way. But beneath the memes and hashtags lies a deeper story. Did Tanzania break regional movement laws under the East African Protocol? Was this a justified act of sovereignty or a state's fear of the spotlight? Now tonight we cut through the noise. We'll unpack Tundu Lissu's legal wars, the controversial arrests, reactions from both governments, and the haunting allegations of torture. Most importantly, we ask, where does this leave East Africa's fragile brotherhood? So buckle up and drop your comments below and tell us what your thoughts are on this topic. I can see Drew Kimani is already tuned in. Anasema DJ Omosh must bring a doctor's note to explain his tardiness. So Dr. Omosh, not Dr. Omosh, DJ Omosh, you're not a doctor. DJ Omosh, yeah. DJ Omosh, you'll have to explain where you are. So, and the question that we're going to be asking, was this Kenya's overreach or Tanzania's paranoia? And at this juncture, I want to take this time to introduce the first panelist, DJ OmoshFaya, who's working remotely without any permission. DJ OmoshFaya, karibu sana ndani ya OneMic Show. How are you doing tonight? Can you hear us?
Sama. I can hear you. I can see you. Can you see me well? Do I look like I am well? There's another place, it's an island where there's a lot of fishes. So I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes,
maybe say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I can hear you.
No, Omosh, we can hear you. We can hear you loud. We can hear you loud and clear. So, tell us how you've been consuming this online firestorm. Was this Kenya's overreach or is this Tanzania's paranoia? DJ OmoshFaya, twende kazi.
I think it's a combination. So I think when I say Kenyans, okay, so Kenya's overreach is on social media because Kenyans on social media or KOT, for lack of a better word, they can get up into you. Ask the Nigerians. Now going back to the Tanzanians, I think there's you know what Kenyans need to realize. There's actually a big difference between how Tanzanians handle political political dissidents, if that's what you want to call it, or people who are not aligned with the government, versus how Kenyans handle that. In Kenya, we have freedom of expression, which we are able to express, and like in TZ, you don't have that. And so when we take our freedom of expression across the border into TZ and expect to see things happen a different way, it will not turn out good. And Magufuli was a perfect example, as we saw how he dealt with the issue of the chickens, the cows, and all sorts of different other things where we had him make trade was ongoing. And people assumed that Mama Suluhu was not going to be doing the same thing. But they're cut from the same cloth, and they are under the same political umbrella, so to speak. And of course, Bandit can speak more to that for us. So for me, the way I've been consuming this is that Kenyans, at some point, we also need to learn how to fall on our own swords internally, na pengine kuna zingine pia unaangalia kutoka mbali alafu unasema hiyo sasa tutaachia wenyeji wa humo wafanye nini, wajisort ama waone vile watapigana humo ndani. Someone else may say that I'm not being a good neighbor by coming in to fight that battle for them, but I think that Kenyans have overplayed their hand in terms of this whole thing. And at this point, really, both sides need to sit down and have a conversation and iron everything out. But we also know where our limits are. Back to you, studio.
Okay, asante sana DJ OmoshFaya. And I don't know whether Micah Och is already tuned in. Micah Och, nataka kukaribisha sana, karibu sana. I want you to also tell us, like, where have you been consuming this from? And then the other question is, I mean, this was a few activists who went into Tanzania, but it seems like members of parliament in Tanzania started unleashing on all Kenyans, like hamtuzidi kwa kitu chochote and all that kind of talk. So Micah Och, twende kazi, karibu sana, and tell us how you've been consuming this feud.
Good evening, happy Friday. How is everybody? For me, I've been looking at this feud in a way whereby it's that of who threw the first stone here, right? Because I'm looking at it in a point of, okay, you're in your house and you're supposed to argue with one of the residents in your house, then your neighbor wants to come and sit into that argument. And this person who you want to have that argument with is somebody who you think is undermining your leadership in that house based on the rules that you guys agreed on, whether they like them or not. So I'm seeing that Tanzania has every right to deny everybody entry, whoever they feel they don't want to go in their country. They have that right to do that. That is on them. You are not guaranteed entry into any country. That country seems that whatever you're coming to do is not in accordance with their laws. Now, denial of entry is what you're entitled to. Torture and abduction, you're not entitled to that. Now that you're crossing the line. So what Tanzania should have done, because they let Boni and Agatha into the country, what they should have done is they should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country. They didn't want them there. The way they stopped other people from getting in, the way they stopped Madakarua, Anifa, and all the other activists. They should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country and sent them back. And that would have avoided all this. So I don't see how they can then turn around and start trying to play victim here while you let people into your country, then went to abduct or arrest them. And then instead of releasing them and just deporting them, you drove them to the borders of their respective countries and dumped them there after you've tortured and had them to allegation of sexual abuse. So that is something that was an overstep by the Tanzanian government. Now, Kenyans also always will react because why did you arrest people? Why you abduct? Kenyans have this thing in their mind. It's fresh. It's still happening to them. So for them, they will react, and they reacted. And then now for the parliament to turn around and start discussing about Kenya, I feel that is very childish for a whole session of parliament to sit down and try to castigate people in a country, trying to please. You've done wrong. Even if these people were bad people, you felt they were bad coming to your country. You've done wrong by arresting and torturing people. Now you go to parliament again, a whole leadership, and start discussing. And then instead of even discussing on ways on how you can do it with Kenya, you start talking about the people of Kenya. You're actually the ones who actually look foolish at that point, because I don't see how a session of parliament sits down. Imagine a session of Congress sitting down and talking about Mexicans. Oh, they eat maragwe. They're stupid. Oh, they're deplorable. Like you look like clowns. And then the people you're talking about are kids on the internet, not even. Anyway, for me, I think that, as you said, Ali, does it hurt relations between the East African community? And not within the leadership. I don't think so. Within the people, probably. We had Tanzanians who were there, who are actually castigating their own government. And that is why they took the excuse of Kenyans hacking into the police Twitter as an excuse for them to shut down the Twitter, because they knew that the Kenyans were going to influence the Tanzanian citizenship that's online and tell them, like, because people are calling out Tanzanians like, yo, guys, do you think this is okay? Like, is this really okay? And they were posting pictures and ridiculing them. And then, look, as Tanzanians were feeling stupid, like our leaderships look stupid, and they were turning on them. So that's what. So it just shows that relations will be between Museveni, Suluhu, and Ruto. They'll be fine. They have archaic leadership tendencies. They have a dictatorship tendency inside them. They'll be fine now. Oh, ataskizana. If they agree to oppress, if the East African cooperation is them working together to oppress people, they'll be fine. But within the people itself, has it ruined relations? I don't think it has ruined or improved everything, but it has definitely shifted mindsets of people. Back to you.
All right, that is Micah Och. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. You're tuned into the One Mic Show. Apo Micah Och breaking it down. So type your comments and let us know what you think about what Micah has said. So quite a number of things that Micah unpacked there, from the fact that he said that they do have a right to deny anyone they want entry, but they do not have a right to hold people, torture them. There's even allegations of rape against the Ugandan Agatha Tuhaire, the journalist, and then they were dumped, on their respective borders. They were actually allowed to come into the country, and one of the explanation that was given is that under Tanzania's Immigration Act, engaging in certain activities without appropriate permits is prohibited. And Section 16 of the Act states that individuals must not engage in employment, study, or other prescribed activities. I would like to know, this is where I would have loved, to get Bandio's input. What are those other prescribed activities without the necessary permits? Tanzanian authorities allege that Boniface Mwangi provided false information to gain entry, and while the specific reasons for Atuhaire's detention remain unclear, they were both arrested, detained, allegedly tortured, and there was an alleged rape. Of course, and I'm using the strong words alleged because this is what has been reported by various reputable media sources using the word alleged, and both were dumped in the two different countries at different border points. Then there's another theory. Now, because we are not being given full information, that's why these theories are coming. And there's another theory suggesting that Kinaboni might have been trapped because everyone else was being stopped at the airport. Everyone who they did not want to enter the country was being stopped at the airport. So kina Boni might have been trapped. Ingieni, and then we're gonna arrest you. Going back to what Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi in an interview on Citizen was saying, it was difficult to know whether he was the Foreign Affairs Minister of Kenya or Tanzania. Your citizen has been tortured. At that time, he had still been, he was still under the custody of Tanzanian security agencies. So Musalia, the way he was speaking, you're supposed to behave in a certain way, he was speaking like he was the minister for foreign affairs
for
Tanzania, which was very shocking, which lends me to ask before I come to Mike, is there a possibility that there might have been collusion between the Kenyan government and the Tanzanian government? Finya hawa watu, because the ones who they did not want to come in, former Cabinet Secretary Martha Karua, there was Hanifa, who was also there, activist, and there was a number of other people, former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga. They were all denied entry. But Boni and the Ugandan journalists were allowed entry, and then they were dramatically arrested and tortured and then dumped at their respective borders. Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
I think one, what karibuni sana, by the way, it's been a long time. I think there was I think the media really needed to break down the simplistic nature of what really transpired, because the call of certain persons being deported only to find out that they were not allowed entry, that brought a lot of confusion, because people are still saying that they were deported.
Yeah,
they were not deported. Mother Karo was not deported. Hanifa, what's her name? The lady. Hanifa. Yeah, those guys were denied entry, rightfully so. Tanzania has the right to deny entry, like any other country. It's just like when you're coming over here, unless upite customs. And you're told karibu, we uko border, you're still at the border. If you remember creme de la creme case. Yeah. Anyway, that is one.
But kama your creme, was it deportation or denial of entry?
It was denial of entry.
It
was denial of entry.
Okay.
As long as you haven't said ukipiga hiyo ukiambiwa welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
Passport and whatever inachapwa nini.
Anything after that is now deportation, but before passport ipigwe stamp, ukirudishwa ni denial of entry.
Yes, ukirudishwa, that is denial of entry.
Understood. Yeah.
That should have been made clear, or people should have ascertained that. That is one. Two. When it comes to Boni, if he had a tourist visa and if he was not doing touristy things, then they have every right to revoke, right? If they say tunataka ukuje ufanye uende tourism, so by you being a tourist unaenda Lake Tanganyika, unaenda hapa. But if you're caught in late night political meetings, that's a different story.
So what did Boni do? That is a question.
So now that is what we need to do.
He was in a hotel.
He was in a hotel.
Yeah.
Right? He was in a hotel. What we know is he was alichukuliwa.
He was allowed picked up while having breakfast.
He was picked up.
Yeah.
Technically, you would say he was doing a touristy thing because he was staying in a hotel having breakfast.
Yeah.
The next thing is tunamwona wapi? Kwa border. Limping.
Yeah.
That from the moment he was picked up to the next time we saw him, something really bad has happened. That one we can tell.
And they took him to the farthest possible border ya side ya Lunga akiingia ndani ya Kwale County.
So
yeah,
would we be wrong in saying there was collusion? Of course we would assume, because our own guy, for the foreign affairs guy, was like ni kama mazee alikuwa anafurahia.
Yeah, it's like he was happy.
Musalia Mudavadi looked like he was happy. He was saying, by the way, when you have to behave. It's not that unapeleka whatever. You can speculate. This is your Kenyan citizen in a foreign country with whom we have the diplomacy liko wapi.
Yeah.
Unajua The funny thing is what Ali and Uno is that wewe sahi ukienda TZ that you need passport. Unaingia na ID yako.
Sasa.
Unaona? That is African community operates. TZ you unaingia tu na ID yako unapita na umeishia. Basically bora ni Mkenya. Kama una PP unatumia passport. Kama una passport unaonyesha tu ID utajaza zako ka form na unapita na certificate yako ya yellow fever na unaishia. Hata sasa hiyo yellow fever itishangi ni ID tu na unapenya. So they had and they could have denied him entry quite easy, as it was as easy of him getting entry because si ati lazima apply visa ama nini. Wale unaambiwa West African community unakuja hapo unapita hapo anaangalia ID anakuambia haya nini unakampudu nini, like simple. So tukisema hata anatumia hizo clauses za sijui visa yake nasema nini, East African community huko ni kwenu, uko home.
You'd think you're at home,
Micah.
Now,
your issue, your ID, and this is something to confirm. The 2 times I've entered through Zanzibar, because most of the time I entered Tanzania, through Zanzibar, they actually do require a passport if you're using a flight. If you're using a flight, I think if you're on a land border, you can go in with an ID, but that's yet to be confirmed. However, there's an East Africa Community protocol about citizen movement. The East Africa Community Market Protocol, particularly Article 7, guarantees the free movement of persons among partner states. This provision allows citizens of member countries to enter, reside, and exit other partner states without the need of a visa. However, this right is subject to limitations imposed by the host partner state on grounds of public policy, public security, or public health. So public policy, public security, or public health. What is not clear, right, at this point is what did Boniface Mwangi do?
yes.
That's what lacks clarity. Maybe there's something he did. Maybe he tried to organize, he gathered, like people look at TZ and tried to organize. We do not know.
And up to now,
Yeah.
nothing has been tabled as to ascertain
Yeah.
or to say this is what he did. If you guys remember, if you guys mnakumbuka ile story ya Britney, like the basketball lady.
Brittany Griner.
Yes.
Yeah, the one who was arrested in Russia. Yeah.
Alibemba ni ndoma ama alikuwa na nini? Na vape.
Ilikuwa ni vape, yeah.
Alikuwa na vape.
Yeah.
Right? But technically awase walisema alisema udem alijaribu ku traffic tembe.
Drugs.
Yeah.
Unaona? Rightfully so wakasema hapa this person atumtaki. They arrested wakamweka korokoroni. There was something they said.
There was a process.
There was a process.
Yeah.
The other one, if you remember, the guys they have really negotiated for, it's guys who are being accused of espionage.
Yeah.
Journalists. Unaona? And some people they've been sentenced, they've gone through the trial as fast as it may be.
Yeah.
They've gone through a trial and they've been sentenced.
Yes.
Right? But they come out and say alikuwa ni espionage. He's a spy.
Yeah. So they give us something.
They give something.
Yes.
It could be mataheko. It could be
Yeah.
useless.
Yes.
Than your garbage.
But they give something.
There's something.
Yeah.
Since that incident, we have nothing. I don't, unless maybe they have said through their channels or something has come out or there's an official report or document or statement from Musalia Mudavadi stating what happened or in consultation with the Tanzanian embassy, whatever, this was what this and this happened. This transpired and this is why he was arrested.
Yeah.
Arresting is one thing. Lakini, between being arrested and being released, Mr. Leonwawo.
Yeah.
In addition to the young lady, the Ugandan journalist.
Yes. The lady journalist. And there's allegations of
Allegations.
rape. I will repeat allegations.
Allegations.
There's allegations of rape. So this right here is putting a very bad spotlight on Tanzania. They are our brothers, they are our friends, but this is putting a very bad spotlight on them. And we clearly don't know what the goals were, because I think it would have been okay to deport Boni for whatever reason, but torture and like transporting him from Dar es Salaam all the way to the Lunga Lunga border, that was totally unnecessary. The Ugandan journalist was also transported to a remote border in Uganda. Totally unnecessary. Now, some people are asking the question is, what was this horde of Kenyan activists doing going into Tanzania? That's something that we're going to discuss. But one of the reasons why they were going there was to attend Tundu Lissu's trial. And maybe some Kenyans may not be familiar with Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu is someone who's actually been right here in Kilimanjaro studio, and Bandio interviewed him on his show at Kwanza Production. And to those who are not familiar, Tundu Lissu is a former member of parliament and an opposition leader in Tanzania. He actually survived an assassination attempt back in 2017 after being shot 16 times and then went into exile. Tundu Lissu returned in 2020 and ran against the late President John Pombe Magufuli, coming in second and cementing his role as the face of resistance politics in Tanzania. Now, when you fast forward to 2025, he's now facing treason charges on accusation of inciting protests and challenging the legitimacy of state power. And under Tanzanian law, treason is a capital offense punishable by death. Critics, however, both local and international, say the charges are politically motivated and another tactic to silence dissent. The trial has drawn massive attention globally, including from Kenyan human rights activists who attempted to enter Tanzania to show solidarity, only to be turned away at the airports. But it's important to note that Justice David Maraga was actually allowed in. There was another former Chief Justice, Willy Mutunga, who was also among those people who was not allowed. Now those who made it in, of course, included the likes of Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan journalist Agatha Atuhaire, and they were picked up forcefully from their hotels by Tanzanian security agents. They were held for a couple of days and allegedly tortured, then got dumped hundreds of miles away at their respective borders. Now, these incidents, of course, ignited a full-blown online war between Kenyans and Tanzanians, with deep questions emerging about regional solidarity, free speech, and whether Tundu Lissu is getting a fair trial. So here's a question that I want to pose out to the panel, and I want to come out to DJ OmoshFaya. Amenyamaza sana hapo. Is this about justice, or is this a warning shot to all those who dare to try to say anything about what's going on in Tanzania? DJ OmoshFaya.
And I hope there's no echo.
So, is there an echo now?
No. You keep talking. We'll let you know.
Okay, sawa. So, I think the way we've always seen things happen for our leaderships or leaders in Africa and again in East Africa is there's certain things that are done to basically stop or quell unrest by basically being extremely severe, or as Uno had said, Kenya. So basically, you go after certain people, you make the statement. Then once you have made the statement, then it quells the unrest or people who even were thinking of doing something like that. Almost like fanya kuja uone or ili iwe funzo kwako na wengine kama wewe. So that to me is what seems to be happening here, where these guys have been made an example of, and now anybody who would try to come in, either to protest or to basically come and defend or something that is against pretty much the state and or the government, you know exactly, or you should be aware that there's a possibility that these things could happen. And obviously, all manner of people have cried foul on this. Amnesty International, the American government, I don't know who, all sorts of people have cried foul. And there's also something that Ali, you guys have not touched on, is that a human rights, political activist and human rights defender from TZ called Mulude Nyagali, who's been missing since May 2nd. And he was picked up. Nobody has seen him since then, and these people are supposedly cops. So all of these things are things that are leading up to the whole Tundu Lissu treason trial, which like you said, is basically it's a non-bailable offense, and the sentence is basically death. Of record that people should note is that TZ has a presidential elections coming up in October. So go figure. you can look at this thing in several different ways, but this is basically warning shot telling people don't mess with the establishment. We are the ones who are ruling, and we got this. Back to you, studio.
All right, asante sana DJ OmoshFaya, and apologies, there's an echo coming from Omosh's side. We're trying to resolve that, but I think bado mnamsikia. We're going to try to get that resolved. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We'd like to know, like your views and your thoughts on this. Watu leo Facebook ni kama wametulia kidogo. On YouTube, like people are talking there. Kuna firestorm. iContent, iyo echo tunaangalia, pole sana. And then iContent says, I thought the East African passport allowed us to roam in and out kama kwenda Kisumu, Eldoret. That is what it's supposed to do, but that's not the practicality of what happens. And then Pablo hapa Paul Nzengo anasema there was a lot of conflicting information online, which left a lot of speculation. And clarity. I think he meant lack of clarity. CJ Maraga was in TZ. Why wasn't he denied entry to the same court Kina Martha Karua wanted to go? Even Boniface Mwangi, we are not clear on what they went to do huko TZ. Unfortunately, this story will end too hivyo this time. So yeah, and that's why there's a gap, and this is where media sources are supposed to fill in these gaps. We of course do not expect, and I'm saying this in a very polite way, we do not expect that gap to be filled by Tanzanian media, because Tanzanian media, I'm a big consumer of Tanzanian media, they will rarely openly criticize the government like the way we see in Kenyan media. So there's no expectation of getting that criticism from Tanzanian media, in all fairness. But Kenyan media hapa pia wamezembea. I think this is where, they need to take an extra step. In this era where there's information coming from all over, how you distinguish yourself as a mainstream media source is by being able to get these gaps that all these online sources are revealing cannot fill. Like, what exactly was Boniface doing in Tanzania? By the time he was getting arrested, what had he done for him to get arrested? Now, if he said upon entry that he had gone to Tanzania as a tourist to visit, what did he do to make the authorities determine that he had not come here to visit, but to do XYZ? These are the answers that we're asking from Tanzanian authorities. Mama Samia Suluhu, we love you, lakini hapa kidogo mi nitakwambia umekosea. Ndakwambia tu kidogo umekosea, and at the bare minimum, you owe Kenyans an explanation of not necessarily why Boniface Mwangi was deported, but why he had to be tortured before being deported.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deport a guy. Don't torture.
Yes. So I think that right there is very problematic. And I think also, unfortunately, when this conversation spills back into Kenya, people speak based on what political persuasion they're feeling at that moment. So if they're supporters of the president, you're not supposed to like activists, you're not supposed to like Inaboni. Hawa watu wanasema hiyo ni adabu yao, which is also very unfortunate. And then I think also, like Micah had mentioned earlier, the big mistake Tanzanian parliamentarians made is that rather than address the issue, they went and addressed people that were throwing jabs online, and they were throwing back those jabs, saying stuff like Kenya hawatushindi kitu na nini. And now they gave fuel to the people who are throwing these jabs online. And that's why, you started seeing people releasing the phone numbers of those Tanzanian members of parliament, people releasing their academic records, because Kenyans online are vicious. Like, we forced CNN to apologize. That's something that there's a tendency to forget sometimes. So I think if the Tanzanian parliament had focused on the issue, I think there would not have been a problem. I think they were unfairly attacked. I will apologize to them on behalf of of Kenyans on Twitter, but I think they also approach this in a totally wrong way. Where there was no, because I was following some of those proceedings and I'm like, this is not what I'm expecting to get from parliament. And it's not like the Kenyan parliamentarians did much better because there was MPs like Cherargei who are like Finya Kabisa, they should learn their lesson and stuff like that, which is also very problematic, which shows that there's a problem in both houses of parliament, both in Kenya and Tanzania. I can see a comment here coming from Yakobo Simba. Yakobo anasema on Facebook, anasema the entire region has poor leadership. It's a reminder that politicians are in their class and watch out for each other. Heck, they synchronized apology speeches this week. We are on our own. My other question is, what was President Ruto apologizing for? Your citizen had been abducted. What exactly was he apologizing? I'm trying to find out what I missed. Like Micah ama Micah hapa studio. Is there something that I missed? What exactly was President Ruto apologizing for?
Micah.
Walisalimiwa.
Ruto amezoea kusalimiwa.
Sasa Ruto amezoea. Ruto ni hard kwa alikuwa anawaambia like poleni. Alikuwa anawacheka zile za mjuu umechokoza nani.
So unasema
ile ngori tukujia.
Okay, so unasema ali apologize because of our MPs walisalimiwa ama Mama Samia alisalimiwa.
Wote. Like alikuwa anasema zile fukatu wakosea basically because walikuwa shida yao kubwa ilikuwa sasa. Hata shida ile ilianza kwa kina Boni. Shida ile ikakuwa Twitter.
Kenyans on Twitter.
Kenyans on Twitter. Na unasikia vitu zenye zinafanyika, wanasema kuna Gen Z. Alihaka government vivia akajiandika kama nini provincial commissioner. Akachukua doa alafu akachukua doa akapeana kwa charity. Mwingine akasiji Bank of Tanzania akaiba doa akadonate kwa charities zilikuwa Kenya.
Wow. I mean,
so hiyo pole akiwaambia Fuka alikuwa anajua anawaambia pole like alikuwa zile za hiyo pole yake tu ilikuwa za kasi. Ilikuwa tu ile kusema tu kwa zito za siji prayer reconciliation thing and he was telling but kwake alikuwa anasema at least nimepumua hii wiki sijatukanwa acha tukane mtu mwingine.
Okay, yeah, because that online war was vicious. Me, I was like, okay, mimi ni Mkenya, but I think hapa pia tumekiuka mipaka. Like we went, it was going for the jugular. I think,
but
there was even no expectation on that side that things were going to get this vicious online.
But here's the thing though. Hata wao whatever they did was wrong. They can do that to their own person.
Unajua ukikuwa kwa government ya chama ya baba na mama. Right? Imagine this was Kenya, ingekuwa reverse. Imagine this was reversed. Right? And then sasa ni Moi. Si Moi wa juzi huu wa Moi yule Moi wa when we were young in the
80s, yeah.
Ile kwenye kulikuwa na kitabu ya chama. So imagine huo Moi. Alafu sasa kwa Kenya tunatukana na Watanzania. Wewe unafikiria kina Mulimutisia kina Kamodo wangekuwa wanasema nini kwa parliament? They would have been singing the same anthem.
And you see, it's an interesting point, Micah, you bring up because, I've been discussing with some of my Tanzanian friends and of course zile magroup za Tanzania mimi niko pale ndani kama mall nasikia nakaa tu kimya nikisikia wanasema nini kuhusu wa Kenya is that a lot of Tanzanians forget that we were in this phase with a more vicious dictator not a very long time ago. Anyone in Kenya above the age of 40 years old did experience the wrath of they knew about the wrath of President Moi. So, and that's a time when we also were in a similar situation where we had one party ilikuwa ni like it was KANU or
ilikuwa chama ya baba na
mama.
Baba na mama.
Yes, ilikuwa kila kitu. Yes, na ilikuwa ni ile remember how vicious things were. Remember the story I was giving you guys one day that within my lifetime as an 11-year-old my mother was called to school because of an essay I wrote. That's how bad things were. And we are saying this to also make Tanzanians understand that we've lived through worse. So this is not because there's also a tendency sometimes of Watanzania kusema oh nyi wa Kenya, nyinyi ni wakorofi, nyinyi ni watukutu, nyinyi nini, but they tend to forget that we actually went through faced with a more vicious dictator. Micah.
I was saying, there's this thing that people say, people assume, because I've also heard some Nigerian people talking about it, and they were saying like, the difference after Nigeria, we cannot do what you guys have done because you guys are soft, like you've had soft leadership. You've never gone through bad leadership. And I tell them one thing you guys are forgetting is that Kenyans walichoka. They got tired early. And it's been a build-up. It's been a build-up from multi-party time from when people were Saba ikianza. It's been a build-up. It's just been evolving through the generations based on how those generations fight. It's just like that is where you see it's Kenya for politicians to hold demonstrations because that thing is in our blood, is in our spirit. Like it's like we are born with it. It's been taught to us day by day. Gen Zs wamegrow up wakiona maandamano za watu wa kurusha mawe na nini. Hao wakasema sisi tutapigwa na mawe but we'll fight in a way that we know how to fight. Na wamesoma. Unajua kitu moja Kenya tuko nayo ni nini? And I'll thank the dictator. Alikuwa anapenda masomo.
No,
aliensure tuna masomo.
Yeah.
Aliensure like he ensured the education in Kenya is good. Like somebody can go to Kenya has very few literate people basically. Hata mtu kalifika class 8 anaweza express kwa kizungu, anaweza understand like akona IQ, akona logical thinking. Hiyo tu kwenda shule hizo tu hiyo hata kali somo kidogo kuna the education system goes. So people know how to do. We might have our flaws or kina tribalism na nini and that and liking leaders in certain ways. We have our faults. We're not the complete thing yet, but we have evolved to reach where we are right now. Where people assume that it's just we are spoiled brats. We're not spoiled brats. We know we've fought to a point whereby we know we have to keep fighting or we go back to Tanzania.
Na alafu Mika kumbuka, like when it comes to the education part, there's sometimes also this assumption that we get from our brothers, na mimi nasema hivi, nyinyi ndugu zetu, whether you like it or not, that hawa ni kizungu tu wanajua. And I'd like to say this. Yes, maybe kizungu is part of, what we learned very well in school, but I'm also going to say this. Education ya Kenya, si kizungu peke yake. When you look at Kenya as a country, Kenya is a very unique country within the African context. If you go, in different African countries, and I'm not going to mention which one, but if you go to different African countries, in Kenya today, part of the reason, we've been talking a lot of music the past 2-3 weeks when BN was here. We've been talking a lot of music. Part of the reason why the music industry in Kenya, especially, has been experiencing some challenges, unlike in other countries like Tanzania, Congo, is that because these top musicians are fighting for divided attention with so many other people. In Kenya, unaweza kuwa lawyer na ukawa celebrity. Mm-hmm. You can be an engineer and be a celebrity. So the celebrityism is not only limited to spaces like entertainment, mm-hmm. like what you find in when you go to a country like the Democratic Republic of Congo. With all due respect, mm-hmm. But unaona sasa Kenya, these top musicians who are very good, they are competing for attention with so many other different people who are excelling in different fields.
Unajua kitu fani na Kenya ni nini?
Yeah.
Unaweza kuwa msanii umetoa ngoma haikuhit. Influencer kakuja katoa dance style. Dance style ndio ina hit kushinda ngoma yako.
Yeah, that and that happens. And that happens. So not nasema, like there's some of these narratives that we get from the other side. And there's also some misinformed narratives that even Kenyans have about Tanzanians. And I think this is where this needs to be clear. It would have been nice today if Mubelwa was on the panel. Mubelwa, kama unasikiza, 202-683-4570, press star 5 to speak. Hapa Yakobo anauliza, ask Mubelwa Tanzanian perceptions of Kenyans in Bongo. I have a feeling most think tuna kiherehere, and this would explain their raia and political reaction. I don't know what he meant by raia there, but it explains their political reactions. What I think, because I also have a lot of relations, I have a lot of relatives in Tanzania who are Tanzanians. Msiniulize, staki immigration ya Tanzania. Ikuje waulize ni kivipi mko na cousins Kenya na nini.
Too late.
Yeah, but I have, like family in Tanzania who are Tanzanians. And talking to them, I'm sometimes under the impression that there's also been a lot of poison that has been put on the average Tanzanian's mind about Kenyans. Because these issues zote, they're usually about Kenyans. If I can guarantee you, if these activists were from Lithuania or Latvia or Uruguay, we would never even know about them.
Mm-hmm.
We would never even know that they were there, because they were actually diplomats. Kwa hiyo court, and I think there were also some international human rights organizations represented in that courtroom. So the issue is, why only the Kenyans? And yes, and they do have a right to do whatever they need to do, but the question is, why only the Kenyans? And which brings me to my other question, is it, should citizens within the African continent or anywhere in the world be monitoring human rights in other countries? And the reason why I say this, we remember in Julius Nyerere's Tanzania, people who are fighting for freedom were trooping into Tanzania. That's why there's a very big population of South Africans who speak Swahili. They lived in Tanzania. When you look at the history of Africa, Tanzania was one of the places where people would go to seek refuge.
Uganda nini?
Yes, and they would offer advice. In fact, Micah, even Micah, I'm going to let you explain that. That's a very good example Micah is giving. When Uganda was under oppression by Idi Amin Dada, guess who came and saved the Ugandans? Micah, maybe talk a little bit about that, because these are some of the things that we're not hearing, like from our mainstream media, and people are not talking about them. Micah, tell us about that situation.
That was hold up, give me a minute. So when Idi Amin was losing popularity in Uganda, and I think it was Museveni, right? It was Museveni who was being helped by Nyerere. But one thing that one mistake that Idi Amin had decided upon that time was he felt that he could start threatening his neighbors. And one of the neighbors that he saw was actually weak was who? Tanzania. And it was quite a dumb thing that led to actually to the war. I think it was something to do with killing of fishermen, arrested fishermen, and then killing them and sending them back and saying, what did Nyerere do? And at that time, young Museveni, who was also a general and had just decided to come and try and...
was it Museveni or Milton Obote?
Obote?
It was Milton Obote,
Obote.
yes.
Yeah. And he didn't have such a big strength in the army. And he was trying to fight and overthrow Idi Amin. And at that particular moment, what did Nyerere do? He declared war on Tanzania, and the Tanzanians helped Obote marched up to Kampala and took out Amin.
So you see, this is where we,
should we try Omosh?
History is also important. Wacha tusikie Omosh. Let's try to hear Omosh if the echo issue has been sorted out. DJ OmoshFaya, unatusikia?
Yeah, nawasikia. Munanisikia?
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, actually, I think what he tried to annex a part of Tanzania.
Yeah,
And that's when he killed Tanzanian. He killed Tanzanians he tried to annex a part of Tanzania.
yeah. Okay. Aya, sawa sawa. Wacha tumsikie DJ Omosh. DJ Omosh, I don't think we can hear you. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, I don't think we can hear. I don't know whether you're muted on your side.
No, I'm not muted on my side.
Okay, now we can hear you.
All right.
Now we can hear you much better. Much better.
There's no echo?
Ngoja. Now, people who are listening, tell us if there's an echo, because the echo.
There's another guy called Skip Pablo.
Yeah. So tell us, please tell us whether.
Pablo.
Kila mtu anasema unaongea.
No, so tell us, no, you know, like on this part, hakuna mtu ametuambia, so we're assuming that Omosh is sounding okay. And then hapa I content amesema 100%. Andrew Kimani anasema
Andrew says there's an echo. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. That's
Andrew says
interesting because we don't hear the echo on our side, but you guys are hearing the echo. So
okay, na Pablo pia anasema bado iko.
yeah.
So
I'll try to work on that.
Yeah.
SOS
you guys-
bandio.
Ongea na soprano, labda ni bass ndo maybe ongea na soprano.
Yani unajadilia hivyo.
Okay, aya, sawa Omosh, tutajaribu kusolve your issue. Unasema we have a, you know, like we do you have a caller? Okay. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, I content anasema he was asked to apologize. He was just doing it for the show. That's about Ruto. And then anasema uko Mkenya unaongea ni kama umeoana Tanzania, tunakushuku. Mimi sijaoa Tanzania.
Wewe.
Hiyo story achana nayo hiyo hapo, but I do have relatives in Tanzania. But immigration Tanzania msisikize hii story. And then content anasema bottom line, Tanzania walikosea, wao ndio waliwaanzia Kenya. Even activists wenyewe were there for a good cause. Tuseme wako in their dictatorship era na tuache. Okay, that is eye content. And if there's any Tanzanian listening, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. So again, there was a question on, you know, like the justification of people crossing borders for activism or to go and help another country. And of course, we've talked about the historical cases of where even Tanzania was assisting neighboring countries. But we are where we are. And then, of course, there was the torture allegations against the Tanzanian government on Boniface Mwangi and on the Ugandan activist. And this is starting to look very bad on Tanzania. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know where this will go. And when we talk about the East African community, you wonder now, what is the point of having this East African community? Because it's been problems after problems after problems. The things that were supposed, according to the original agreement that was, or this new East African community that was signed in 1999, by now, by 2025, we're supposed to be in a political federation. We're supposed to be having one president.
One country.
Yes, across the region, which I think would be very beneficial overall to the people. But I think also because of these political undertones, there's a lot of narratives that are running both sides. Na ubaya wa Kenya pia ni Kenyans assume everyone else understands jokes. You see, Kenyans, we come from kuna ile kitu ilikuwa inaitwa mchongo wa no when we were growing up. You know, like we don't realize, but I think hiyo mambo ya mchongo wa no really toughened people up, especially when it comes to online wars. Na hiyo hapo ilikuwa ni live and people would get so personal. Yeah, na kulikuwa hakuna kulia, unakubali tu
ukilia.
Yeah. Kulikuwa hakuna kulia. Yeah. So I think that's the culture in Kenya, because sometimes some of these jokes watu hawako serious. They are said in jest, but people take them seriously. The most vicious one is the one where they went and posted an academic record of a member of parliament in Tanzania. I thought that was a bit below the belt. You know,
but also,
yeah,
let even those Tanzanians themselves were brutally attacking someone like Martha Karua. I wish I could get that audio in Bunge.
Yeah, the
Right?
viciously attacking Martha Karua.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, kaende. Then the two memes that were coming out, AI generated about Samia.
You know, this is I don't know. Tukubali pia wa Kenya tulienda excess kidogo.
No, again, you know, you don't
walienda chini ya basement huko wali heshima ilirushwa nje. Unajua ile
you know, you can't go out there as a president and insinuate that the people who are coming to your country have a sinister motive, because that ideally can put us in Kenya, and even one of those guys in a bad, because ideally the majority of the country is what, CCM, Cindy? Okay, not majority, but the government has power. Let us just agree.
Yes.
Government has power. So even with that power, whatever government says goes. Whatever, what Bandia was explaining to me is that, like, the Chief Justice is selected, not elected.
That's where Kenya was.
Yes.
Remember, the president used to select the Chief Justice.
So here, if you don't dance to the tune, and that is why you were saying, when you were saying that, you know, the government usually dictates mwenendo, how it's gonna go. So when Samia comes out and says what she's saying, insinuating that we are not going to allow, I can't remember, there's some words that she used, we're not going to allow people who have spoiled their country to come here and spoil. That, now this is coming from the president.
Yeah, you know, in a translated version, she said, we have started seeing a trend where some activists from our neighboring countries are trying to meddle in our affairs. If they have been silenced in their own countries, they should not come to disturb our peace here. This was just a small segment of what she said.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you take that, Kenyans read that, wanasema, okay. Alafu wanaona, you have a kina Martha Karua, those ones.
And she also insinuated that Tanzania is the only stable country in the region. So that was the other problematic part.
So now, wanatupa tu masalvo.
Yeah.
Then, we hear reports of one of our citizens, this video of him being kamatwad.
Yeah.
We can say arrested, or he's anachukuliwa.
Yeah.
We see him 4 or 5 days later injured. What do you think? In as much as maybe there's some people who support Boni, who people don't support Boni, and don't forget, you know, there's this compound that with, like, now, for example, you know, like the attempted abduction of the Tanzanian writer.
Yes.
In Kenya, like, right? The journalist, the journal. So there's so much happening. There's so much going on, right? And people are like, okay, you know what? Apana.
Now, if it
and
was,
then it's Kasongo.
If it was vice versa, Tanzanian activists came to Kenya and they were caught up by Kenyan security agencies and they were being tortured. What do you think the reaction from Kenyans would have been?
That would be good. Let me guess. Let me say this hypothetically. I don't think
it happened, right? It did happen. It happened earlier during sometime last year. Was it earlier this year? Last year. Actually, the main critic of Mama Samia.
You're talking about Maria Sarungi.
Yeah. Yeah, so it happened. And the way Kenyans were up in arms, Kenyans made noise. She was released.
Kenyans rallied around her.
Yes.
And that's what I was telling some of my Tanzanian friends. You know, like, one of the big difference here is that if this was a Tanzanian who had come to Kenya and Kenyan security agencies arrested him, Kenyans would rally around him very fast. And of course, I'd forgotten that example of Maria Sarungi. And even there was the Ugandan Kiza Besigye. Yeah. When he was arrested in Kenya, Kenyans were up in arms.
They were, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Didn't Martha Karua go and defend him in court?
Besigye.
Yeah, he was going to defend Besigye in court.
She went.
Yeah. The other problem that we have in within the East African community, we are supposed to allow people to work across borders, especially like within the legal field. But Tanzania ni kama pia wamekataa. There's people like PLO Lumumba, who has like certification to practice there, but I don't know exactly.
Zanzibar, it doesn't matter.
No. I don't know whether Zanzibar has a different bar that you have to pass. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But PLO says Tanganyika, so maybe he's limited to the mainland.
Yeah. Okay.
And not to the island.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you see the likes of PLO. PLO is one of those personalities who's been visiting Tanzania a lot and talking a lot about Tanzania and some of the good side they have. The one thing that I'd like PLO to also do, and he does a very good job, is also talk about the challenges. One area where I'm going to critique PLO is that he will never throw any critique. He was friends, of course, with John Pombe Magufuli, and he will always talk about the positives, which is good, which I think a lot of Kenyans need to know and they need to understand. And there's a lot of positives. I think their politics, despite being one party, they're a bit more disciplined in how policies are made and how things are done, despite the fact that it's all through one party. There's a bit more sense of discipline, which there's a lack of in Kenya. So I think there's a couple of things that we can also learn from them. But then with this coming election, Mama Samia has to be very careful, because if things are not done in the right way, let's not think that what happened in Kenya cannot happen in Tanzania.
I don't think anything will happen in Tanzania.
Now, if you've been no, I have been in Tanzania during an election, not mainland Zanzibar. I've been in Zanzibar during an election.
Zanzibar wale ni Mauru.
Yeah.
Au mainland Nongori.
Yeah, sasa in Zanzibar, uko no niliona moto. Ilikuwa ni 2000, was it 2005? I think it was the 2005 election. Uko niliona moto. And it was suppressed very quick. The thing about an island like Zanzibar, it's so easy to suppress protests because it's an island, and what they do is they disconnect power, especially kama ni usiku. They disconnect power, alafu jeshi wanamwagwa kila pahali. By the time mnaamka kwenda kuswali asubuhi, mnakutana na majeshi kila kona. So so whatever you are trying to organize, it's can't.
Disorganized.
Yeah, it's totally disorganized because it's a small, and the areas where people are living, like Palestine town, it's very easy to surround it and just monitor block to block. So it's very easy to contain them. Uko si kama nini, uko si kama Kenya. Kenya it's very difficult to contain a protest because it will come from all directions. Ukishika huku au wengine huku wameanza. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Hapa Yakobo anasema Rais Suluhu is facing her first elections and she's scared of the opposition and poor international spotlight. Her government was wrong abducting the activists. And then Yakobo also, do you remember Besigye was abducted back in UG? The government are okay with selling their problematic activists to their neighbors. Sasa ndo hapo where niseme we've had a history of online clashes with Tanzanians, but I've never seen one get so personal like this one.
This one was this one was crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen one get so personal like this one, because yani imefika point where we don't understand. And I think most people are not even schooled on their rights as East African citizens. Most people don't know. You know, like Ikitu, I honestly, for the first time ever, I'm seeing its future as bleak.
But you see, like, okay, Micah said something, he mentioned something, you know, Tizedu Kwangawa Softy. I don't think, and you can tell from, like, say, for example, what's happening to Lisu. Okay, what percent? I know you interact a lot with Tanzanians.
Yeah.
Majority or many of them, or what percentage can you
So
say?
the last, first of all, elections in Tanzania have never, we've had our issues with elections in Kenya, but Tanzania's elections have not been free and fair. You know, like anyone will tell you that. They're in that stage of ballot stuffing. Unakumbuka back in the days, Moi, where ballots used to be stuffed, whereby box imeletwa, but it already has ballots that are stuffed inside. By the time inafunguliwa kuhesabu, you know, like the winner is already known. So that's what's been happening. And that's the reason why Parliament is about 95% CCM. So the last election that somewhat had some semblance of some fairness, but still wasn't free and fair because they don't have an independent electoral and boundaries commission. It's still the president who appoints the electoral commission. So so the 2015 election, I want to say, yes, Magufuli won it, but he won it by like 59-60%. So that shows you there's a very big part of the country that does not support CCM, but then there's also a lot of fear.
Yes, and that is why, I mean, there is a lot of fear.
Unajua pande kure kibiwa hawezi tuangori. Wanavyoso kibi tuangori. Hawezi tuangori hiyo design.
So
leo ndo shida. Watakuwa naibiwa kila siku juu ya hiyo.
Yeah. So Nona, there's that issue of the government is still in control of the electoral commission, and you go to the point of you're winning almost 99% of the seats.
You're like Kagame
in Parliament. So I don't know. Number to call again, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. So hapa ndo nauliza, should the EAC just be disbanded? Ama is the issue mainly between Kenya and Tanzania?
I don't know what the issue is. I mean, cause again, like Jacobo said, our leaders ni bure kabisa, totally useless, and they're very selfish. It's them. Mm-hmm. They are a cabal that always is, whatever it is, they will protect their self-interests. It's going to be hard if it was the plan to have one president. It would be interesting to see how that would be maneuvered, especially in East Africa.
No, that can't work.
Of course,
you know,
you have one term.
Yeah,
Museveni, who him and his wife read an apology to the Ugandans simultaneously. They apologized, and like Ruto, who was saying, if we did something to our the kids, I'm like, surely 60 people have died, many have been abducted or whatever. If he's so shameless, it's like you can't even believe it, like, and then you wonder what is the purpose of the prayer breakfast. It is hypocrisy it's on steroids.
Yeah,
these are the same supposedly God fearing, and then they allow who, by the way, these are adults, 24, 25, 26. Those are adults. Those are people who would be starting families or going to start families, or even I'll have a wife, a child or two at 25, 26, 27.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you cannot tell us or indulge us by saying that there's power breakfast, right? You cannot. And then over there you're talking about children have to respect your elders. There's still that notion of, like you're seeing a 25-year-old as a child, as a grown-ass person.
Yeah, you know, and it's problematic. There was that other preacher who was invited in that event.
Kwanza huyo alikuwa na inject.
Yeah,
he was injecting.
I think he went off the script. They did not go through with him, or they did not expect that he will come to inject. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so ni kama wakujua vile atakuja kusema. But now going to this Kenya Tanzanian issue, what is the situation of actually Kenyans living in Tanzania right now? If you guys have any friends, have any family, or know anyone, what is the current situation?
Omosh uko Tanzania mnaeko aje?
Acha tusikie atasema nini. Fire.
Ati Micah umeuliza nini tena?
Uko Tanzania mnaeko aje?
Okay, sisi kama wabongo wajua sasa tusema Kenya ni watu ambao wanapiga kelele, wanapiga gunzo na tumechoka. Wanisikia?
Tunakusikia.
Yeah, tunakusikia lakini yako bado
iko. Is there can somebody confirm for us whether there's an echo or not? Our listeners?
Yes, there is an echo. There is an echo.
Mwanzo uko pale umeenda, next time beba simu. Hii kubeba zile mikebe. Unajua ile mikebe ulikuwa unafunga ngauzi primary tumetekeza simu.
Ama ingia tu Zoom. Ingia tu Zoom. We'll work on shots.
Okay.
I honestly I think this is it's the Wirecast Go. It's not Nini.
It's a Wirecast Go. Okay, then ingia Zoom. Mika yuko kwa Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, then I think jaribu tu Zoom.
Ingia tu Zoom mara hiyo mara that.
Yeah.
Haraka upesi. Ali.
Omosh ulikuwa unafikiria umeenda special treatment.
Dufumpara roho.
Maze, kwanza the way of looking.
Hapa kwa Zoom ndo tutabaki tu. Huko pale umeenda kwa expensive kufanya kazi. Achana na AI. Baki kwa ground.
Unajua, you know, like from what from the few things, from the 2 or 3 things that I know, Tanzania has become a very difficult place for Kenyans who are living there and working there. It's become a very difficult place. Na mimi najua watu wengi ambao wame give up na wakarudi, which I think is very unfortunate, because I don't think we're seeing this same thing in Uganda, because Uganda is our other neighbor. I don't think we're seeing the same thing in Uganda. So I've always just been curious and wanted to know, you know, like exactly what it is that's happening in Tanzania. And this started when Magufuli came into effect. When Kikwete was there, I think things were a bit okay. But when Magufuli alipoingia, mambo ikachange. And you know, with this East African Common Market Protocol, there's supposed to be free movement of labor. That is what's gonna make this community collapse if it's ever effected. The free movement of labor, that is the one thing that I can tell you for sure, majority of Tanzanians do not want.
Italeta shida.
Yeah.
Shida gani?
Italeta shida. Right now.
Italeta shida wa.
Right now,
wanachukua kazi hizo countries zote mbili.
No, right now as a Kenyan, no, by the way, I honestly think there will be more Tanzanians who will come to work in Kenya, because I think the mistake that people look at this, what wanaangalia zile kazi, the visible jobs, maybe jobs tuseme kwa mfano like in the hospitality industry na nini, certain visible jobs which Kenyans used to get. Those are the ones that people look. But a majority of our populations, ukiangalia like the earning range of most people is very low. Unaona ukienda kama Gikomba kuna Watanzania wengi sana. There are so many. They are everywhere ukienda huko. So ndo nasema there's a certain cadre of people or a certain cadre of jobs, they're the ones who will benefit the most, because hizi kazi, the white collar jobs are very few.
Vile sahi kazi za vinyozi na saloon ni za
Burundi.
Wa Burundi.
Yes. Kazi za saloon, kazi za vinyozi, kazi za hawa wanaitwaje, hawa watu wa kuuza mayai. Hii mayai.
Mayai.
Boiro.
Yeah.
Masmocha,
Masamocha Manini.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of Burundians in Kenya, and then ukienda huko kwenyu Mike, they're working, they're farmers.
True.
Yeah, they're employed in a lot of farms. Na wako wengi sana.
And they're working hard.
Yeah, na wako wengi sana. So ndo nasema, you know, like the white collar jobs are very few, but hizo ndo watu wanaona. Wanasema, kwa nini wa Kenya wanakuja kuchukua makazi yetu. But I think honestly, if there's a movement in both ways, watu wanaingia huku na wengine wanaingia Kenya, I think there will be more Tanzanians who will come, especially because wa Kenya kuna kazi nyingi ambazo wa Kenya wanajigamba wataki kufanya. I know people will come and do those jobs. That's how Burundians have ended up in Kenya, because Burundi is very far from Kenya. We don't even share a border with them, but
No, we don't.
Yeah. But wamekuja.
Again, it'll make for interesting, because like but I echo what Pablo said. After a while, this kitu itasahaulika. It's gonna sahaulika, and it'll be what it will be a rap. Like Toro.
Kitu gani hii hapa ya Tanzanians kuja?
No, like it being this brouhaha that happened between Kenya and hii noma after a while isha
No, hii hapa
isha bro.
Yeah, isha hata si tuliingia late. In fact, now Kenyans are moving on to mambo mengine.
Wakenya sasa wana celebrate nini? Madaraka Day.
Yeah.
Wako na long weekend wako sherehe wale kama vita washehe wanaingia sherehe kitambo.
Yes, kina Omosho walienda wakapatiwa ma housing projects huko kwao. Yeah.
Kwa Kisumu baba ametengeneza nyumba mingi akadonate land.
Omosho tuingie siasa kidogo ya Kenya. What is going on in those counties za Luo Nyanza, especially Homa Bay County? You know, like the Madaraka, do we call it Madaraka Festival? Or Madaraka celebrations ilienda huko? Sijui kama unatusikia Omosh.
Nawasikia, munanisikia?
Yes, we can hear you, but now we need to confirm if there's
and if there's an echo.
Yeah. No, I think uko sawa sasa. If there's an echo, someone will tell us.
Housing project zimeiva. Sorry, zinaitwaje?
Look,
affordable housing.
Si hata Omosh sasa yuko Homa Bay anapokea housing project na
ashabook zake kadhaa. Ashabook zake kadhaa.
Unajua hata sitaongea hizo story. I'm not even going to talk those stories of zile vitu watu wamepewa na zile vitu watu hawajapewa. All I can say is this. That Madaraka Day celebrations being brought to Homa Bay County has fast forwarded the development of the stadium, because that's basically where the celebrations are going to be. Vitu kama infrastructure, roads, vitu kama stima, some of the things that watu ambaye hawakai kwa hiyo county hawaelewi ya kwamba hatukuwa nayo. I can tell you that literally tarmac in front of my shags was put in it was after December, because I was home December, January, and the tarmac had not figured. But as of I think it was about April or so, about April, we had tarmac. And the difference in terms of time that it took from mainland to get to shags, without tarmac, it was taking us about 30 minutes. With tarmac, it literally is taking us 6 to 7 minutes. So that to me is a huge deal. And those sorts of things were done because of, I guess, the friendly atmosphere with the office of the president. And those things had come through or were forced in, or whatever you want to call it. Hizo zilikuwa campaign type of, what should I say, handshake related types of things. And I'm just talking about Homa Bay County in the area where I come from. I don't know about some of the other places and what that has done. I know that like ukishuka kutoka Kisumu side, you come also into Homa Bay side. where there's the blue economy or things that are happening off the water, because everything we rely on over there is we rely on a lot of water transportation, which includes ferries, includes ships, includes boats. And by boats, it's anything from motorboats to these pontoons to whatever, whether you're a tourist,
jet skis.
Hata jet skis, kuna watu wako nazo. There are some resorts that have jet skis that are also there. But bottom line of it is that water transportation is a very, very big way of moving up and down. For instance, for me to move from the Kisumu side of the lake to come towards the Homa Bay side of the lake, we take a ferry to go across. There's also a boat, a major boat, which is like the one that you use, Ali, from Alexandria to DC.
Yes.
A water bus. We have something like that, which basically it's a big, boat that takes about 60 to 70 people, plus, goods. Vitu kama maomena, makuku, masijui nini. They don't throw cows on there, but like on the ferry, these guys, they have cows, they have goats, they have a trade, market day. That's how people are moving up and down between different sides of the lake, So those sorts of things have now made that place a viable place. Very soon, what I'm calling Sharks will become a major tourist attraction because you can now navigate. You literally could leave a place like, say, Kisii and come down to Homa Bay or to come down to Rusinga Island, take the day, go see where Tom Mboya was buried, and turn around and go back to Kisii. And that whole drive, it's not going to take you whereas maybe it was taking you to come 5 hours round trip. It's going to cut it down because just of simply adding tarmac kutoka what they call mainland, which is Beta Point for people who may know that area, into Rusinga Island. Or you can stay on the island itself. They have nice resorts, which, believe it or not, early in December, we pay $500 a night to stay there. Now, kuna watu wanalipa.
500 shillings.
$500 a night.
Hey.
What Zimbabwe dollars?
That's peak.
Hey.
That's peak period. But Ali, that same 500 is what people are paying at Swahili Beach.
Ali, utaki kuamka breakfast unakula sausage na hipo inakuangalia hapo kando inakwambia pige.
Correct. Yes, he's telling you I'll take you on a piggyback ride.
Minda angalia hipo kwa YouTube. $500 a night.
Yes, but Swahili Beach is 500. Micah, how much is Swahili Beach during that period of between Christmas and New Year's?
No, that's a rough
Not
period.
the time, because the time in Indiana, which is like what 3 years ago, ilikuwa 300 and something a night.
I was there this December, Jan. Those people paid $500 a night. Because it included
probably with inflation and everything right now.
Yes, it included the celebration of New Year's Eve into New Year's. So $500 a night for someone who has sat there and has planned, and maybe you want to get. There's a lot of people who actually come that side of the lake during that Christmas period because they want to do something different for Christmas. Hawataka kwenda Sharks per se. So hata wanakubaliana, they meet as a family in that area and come to see the lake and enjoy the breeze and all sorts of different things. So all of those things from a touristic perspective are great for that area.
But now, you unless Omosha natulipia. But now...
No, but Ali, 500 need the high end. Kuna zile unaweza lipa hata kama...
Zero Moja akona dead capital look.
Okay. You have dead capital.
Zero Moja iko kwa lake.
Mine is by the lake. Come with your tent, you will pitch tent and you lala there.
Hapo basi tutakuja. Hiyo sotano, hiyo inaenda index fund hiyo hapo. Man, 500 a night.
But you see, Ali, what you can do is you can use those facilities during the day. And then at night you lala somewhere else. So you're not missing so much.
Kwa tent na hipo iko hapo.
Hapana hapo kwa tent. Pali nakwambia dead capital iko hapo kwa tent hipo haifikagi juu iko juu kidogo. Hipo likes vegetation that's right there by the nini by the lake. Literally.
Tent na hippo haziingiani.
No. Si ndio nakwambia, between the hippo and by the time it comes to eat, it will have eaten about 10 people in front of you. So you'll be fine. You'll hear it.
No, na Omosh, sasa mimi nasikia hii excitement mko nayo sasa na this new collabo between Baba and Kasongo.
Yes.
Is my theory is my theory coming to fruition? Remember my theory.
Ali, it depends on how you look at it, because your theory could come to fruition if repeat it for people.
Let me remind people the theory. So this is my theory, and again, this is a theory. It's not a fact. Kwa hivyo msianze kuja hapa uniulize ati where did you find that information? Hii theory is it's a Vladimir Putin theory, because Ruto understands that he's very unpopular, and he's very likely to lose if he participates in the next election. He could take a time out, give it to Baba, let Baba run, Baba amweke ile position Mudavadi yuko sasa, but now in a more powerful capacity, like as a prime minister, not as a prime cabinet secretary.
Amweke PM.
Yes, amweke PM, wafanye remix ya, and there's someone mwenye kuna sound hapo, I don't know who's
Omosh,
yeah, Omosh punguza sauti hapo. Yeah, ama Omosh mute side yako. Yeah.
Na mute.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was saying, so the theory is
endelea.
Okay. Okay, imenini sasa. Imepotea sasa. So the theory basically is that Ruto wants to give way to Baba because he's probably calculating that Baba doesn't have that many years left. And the goal with him taking that breather or break is because he's unpopular. He might lose the election. And then by giving Baba this term that comes up, Baba's base will never forget him. And he will naturally, or rather what he's planning, is to naturally inherit Baba's base, because within ODM, there's clearly no natural successor. Like if something happened to Baba today, who is Baba's successor in ODM? So that's what Ruto wants. And then he wants to inherit that base because Baba's base is a very durable base. Now, after that's done, they go remix the constitution. A term becomes 7 years. A president can run for 3 terms. So now Kasongo comes back in 2032, mpaka 2037. No, is it 20? No, it's
2039.
No, 2032 mpaka 2039, and then 2039 mpaka 2047. Some of you will be in retirement homes in 2047. Akwe dictator of East Africa. I think that is what Putin did in Russia, and that's how he became a president for life. He was president, finished his 2 terms, took a break, akampatia huyu Medvedev, akakuwa prime minister, and then they went and remixed the constitution, and then now he's back, president for life. That is my theory. So Omosh, back to you.
Sasa Ruto atakuwa for life ama atakuwa tu na mbili zingine extra?
Hiyo ni life. Think about it. 2046. Do you know how far 2046 is from now?
It's 20 years.
Yeah. That
21 years.
Will be some of Omosh will be like 96.
Hapana, Raila atafanya tu term moja, hata atamaliza.
Donasema it's even worse kama asipomaliza term moja, because if he goes, let's say, like half a term, then whoever is deputizing him is the one who's going to become president. And by this time, Ruto has already inherited Baba's base.
Yeah, but how strong will that base be? Because
how strong is Baba's base?
How strong is Baba's base?
No,
because
it's not as strong. Because it's not as strong as it used to be.
Because once alivuka sakafu.
Yeah.
Because unajua, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Unajua base. unajua stronghold ya baba, watu wengi wasimingi stronghold ya baba huko ni Nyanza alone. Baba kuja nayo stronghold Nyanza ikishikana na Western. Na kuna vile Western ana lose hiyo grip. Na hiyo ndo stronghold yake actually main.
I'll differ with you, Micah, but go ahead.
No, yeah, you can differ with me, but tuseme tu kweli Nyanza kuna Wakisii who actually just as equally as many as you na Wakuria.
Okay, but are you
Nyanza
counting Wakisii as Western or Nyanza?
No, si count Wakisii as Western.
Or you're counting them as part of the base?
No. Me nikikwambia Western, like Western province kwa Waluya, right?
Correct.
Pali baba, the only part yenye baba ana control ni Wabukusu pekee. Na wale ni wadogo. Na ukiangalia wale wa Maragoli, wale wa Mudavadi, wale watu wa Mudavadi uko wadogo hivi. Yes. But as long as akona Wakisa, Wakisa, Wanyore, wa Marachi, wa nini, wa Isuha, wa Idaho, wa Wanga, wa nini, like ana control a major part of Western, Wateso.
Yes, Mumias, all the way down that area coming up.
Yeah, baka Busia, Komalaba, nini, ana control a major part of Western. And when he has that support, that's when he's strong.
Correct.
Yeah, ndo nasema his base, it might not be as strong as it was before the Gen Z revolution, but he still has a base.
But that theory, that theory is...
He still has a base because remember, Ruto pia, akona, like he has his base of sorts. He's created a base in Northeastern, and now we don't know, like how once registration numbers imetoka, that's when what watajua mbivu na mbichi iko wapi. But Omosh was disagreeing with Micah's theory. Maybe Omosh explain your disagreement.
No, my only disagreement with Micah was the reach of Baba. Yes, I think his reach has definitely come down. But if you're talking about Luo Nyanza, without a doubt, it's not shaken. There are those doubters. It's still there. Hapa kwa Western, yes, hapa kwa Western, I think is divided in 3 now, and it's very distinct. Kuna watu wa Baba, and then kuna watu wa the nini. This younger guy who
Salasia.
To me,
Salasia.
Yes, I think yes.
Western mtu anawasumbua ni mmoja. Western mtu anasumbua ni mmoja, Natambea, right?
Okay.
Na ukiangalia ile yenye Natambea na kuja nayo, and then you see kina Salasia na wote, all of them are aiming to him, au ndo wanaenda kubak naye. Like basically they come back. Kazi bure wameisha nguvu. Because
yes.
Natembea amenyang'anya nani Wabukusu. Anaitwaje ujamaa Weta, amenyang'anya Weta Wabukusu. Yeah. So amenyang'anya Weta Wabukusu. Kina Salasi na kina Boni wanakuja nao wengine wenye wamebaki. Ukiangalia huko kwingine Busia, like if you look at Busia, he's losing the grip also there. Like I'm lose grip yoko the stronghold yake, and lose grip, like basically ana lose grip from Kakamega, Busia, alafu na kina Wanga kwa Wateso, and then come to add up, wanakuja wa gang up na Natembea, like hawa watu wa Young watagang up watu wa Western, and they'll become one, because you know moja wao usema tunakujanga separated as blocks ndo wanatuenjoy. Yes. But wakigang up hivi wote pamoja wakamonye wanajua strengths zenye nazo wako nayo, alafu alafu sasa hiyo ni Western, right?
Yes.
Ikiingia Nyanza kwa Kisii na Wakuria,
kwa Wakisii
Matiang'i amemnyang'anya.
Kwa Wakisii
Matiang'i amemnyang'anya watu.
It's very bad.
So
now I don't know about Matiang'i so much.
Ngoja. No, Wakisii ni Matiang'i wote. Maraga hakuna kitu anaenda kuona. Uko ni Matiang'i.
I don't think so either way, but
ngoja. No, hiyo ni Matiang'i, tukuje Nairobi.
Yes.
Ile nguvu anakuangalia Nairobi pia ina reduce.
Yes, ina reduce, yes, because people are
kuna ile frustration. Yeah, kuna frustration. Ana nguvu alikuwa nayo Nairobi. Cost as much as tunajaribu kuongea sijui nini. Joho pia hajashikilia cost vile nafikiria ameishikilia. So stronghold zake zinatingizwa.
Yes.
Stronghold zake zinatingizwa.
I agree about the mtiririko, or should I say kutingizwa. That part I understand and I agree with it. But I still think that if let's say we are to go with Ali's theory, okay, there is something in that where a combination of what Raila has as cash in hand and what Ruto has as cash in hand, when combined with this northeastern element,
this will be their poisonous chalice.
Ngoja Mika, ngoja tusikie theory ya Omosh.
So if it's with this element now of kusema tunaleta Wasomali, blah blah blah, whatever, whichever way they want to look at it, that's supposed to be according to these our political strengths and things that have happened in the past. Then they're trying to basically neutralize the central province block, which is all numbers oriented, right? So if you can go and find these votes from other places, then now you need now something Micah said, which can throw all of these things off.
Bundles imeisha.
Now, Amuniski?
No, endelea. Ulikuwa umefreeze.
Okay, something that may throw off the theory that I was talking about was that coast is the one that, to me, that is the one that is going to be the X factor. Whoever has coast is going to win, in my opinion.
But then, okay.
So
let me tell you why this is going to be their poisonous chalice, right?
Mm.
The thing is, for now, Baba saved Ruto, right? And
Correct.
everything that made people go to the streets is still going on, and he's supporting it to an extent where he has said Ruto's policies were the same as his, so ni sawa tu vile Ruto anaendelea. So regardless of between the two, who's running, kuna ile chuki na resentment watu wako nayo. So if these people wa Munyoro ashikane na kina Matiangi, kina Maraga, waende washikane na watu wa Western huko, right? There's some elements in Rift Valley kwa Ruto kwenyewe pali watu wana shida na yeye. Washikane nao.
The other Ruto.
Washikane na Ukambani kina Kalonzo. And then washikane na watu wa Coast. They have the numbers to beat those two people.
Now, your theory,
on the
Mika,
resentment that the people have for this handshake. If all these other jokers can come up with one candidate, they're beating whoever those two people feel.
Now,
they'll beat Baba, they'll beat Ruto.
Your theory, Mika, is premised on these other groups coming up with one candidate.
Working together.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel, like right now, theoretically, it looks possible, but I think the practicality of it is a no-no. I don't think it's going to work. And here is why. You have Kalonzo Musyoka, who has to run. Come rain, come shine. It doesn't matter.
Spoiler.
Yes. Wamunyoro himself, I know he's supposed to be banned for life, but kuna vitu anafanya. If he's allowed to run again, I think Wamunyoro is going to run.
He is going to run. He's
going to run, Ali, because remember, his staff is still up or sitting in the limbo. They have to come up with a judgment.
And then remember, there's others like Matiangi, who's experiencing popularity in Kisii. I think he's also going to run. So there's no, even if one of them bulks, at least two of them will run. Okiya Omtata is also going to run, and we don't know if the Gen Z might decide to hug that Omtata ticket. So with all this happening, what it means is that most likely elections 2027 we're gonna experience our first runoff. And now when we experience a runoff is when we're gonna see high stakes politics, because in a runoff now you have to work with someone, whether mulikuwa mmechukiana, whether ilikuwa sijui ni Gen Z riots, because if let's say it is on one side, it's broad-based. And then the other side, they have to choose who to work with for the runoff. I don't think you'll pick Wamunyoro, but he might pick the person.
To assume for the sake of the conversation.
Yes. Let's say Matiangi runs independently, and then he picks Matiangi. So now Matiangi has to come back and support Ruto, in the runoff on the promise that atapatiwa prime cabinet secretary, atapatiwa maybe a speaker seat or something of that sort. So I think that's the most likely scenario in 2027. What I would love to see is if the two main groups, broad-based and Wamunyoro, if they're number one, number two, if they're going on a runoff, because they will be going against each other on a runoff. If they're going against each other on a runoff, then now people will have to divide. Maybe huyu moja tamshika Matiangi, mwingine amshike, let's say miraculously, Omtata is also getting a lot of support, which there is a likelihood that he might get support with Gen Z. Let's say Omtata achukuliwe na group ya kina na broad-based group. And let's say maybe Raila is the one who's running kwa hiyo broad-based, Ruto ni prime minister, and then now Omtata anaingia pale ndani as now he becomes a prefect from the inside. That is a likely scenario of what might happen in 2027. The other theory is that Baba will bolt out from Ruto. I'm seeing that as a very unlikely scenario with the way things are going, the way things are marinating, the way people are making money. I see that
biashara
unlikely.
imeshika sahi.
Yeah,
Ah,
biashara imeshika.
Bizi imeshika hawezi kosana hata kidogo.
Yes, within 1 year, by August of 2026, World Cup ikishaisha next year, hapo ndo tunajua pali siasa ya Kenya inaelekea. Because World Cup itadistract wa Kenya. They will not be focusing on politics. Itakuwa ball the whole month. Yeah.
Hapa kuna comments mob. GCU Godi. Cecil unazalimiwa. I may have mentioned that name badly. GCU Godi.
Wapi Facebook
Facebook.
Yeah, okay.
Yakobo Sima nasema Omondi should say these are all recent developments, and you're talking about motorized water vessels on Lake Victoria, most installed in the second UK term, and now KK Rain. Mkenya Mashinani anauliza, how is Baba popular? I think that one has well, I guess it has been broken down. Popularity is there, but it's waning. Kenya continues to say after Gen Z protest, Baba lost a big grip. Yakobo says Natembea, Matiangi and MOU have reduced Rao's hold. Salasia is not a strong force yet. And Adhiamba Odak says, Micah, I don't think it's resentment, it is intense anger.
And you know, the only way we're going to start knowing the direction for 27 is when we have a by-election. So, Nona, one of the reasons why Kina Ruto have been happy for IBC not to be there is because there's been no by-election, because by-elections are usually a test. It's kind of like an opinion poll of where people's minds are. And there's been no by-elections. There's still a lot of trouble in putting together IEBC.
Because there's some places that don't even have any political leader. There's certain
They don't
regions,
have MPs, yeah.
They don't have MPs.
They don't have...
and even
this is so unprecedented.
And even the constitution, the current, even the persons and people who have been selected, nominated, chosen, however, whichever word you want to use, it's still, what do you call it? It's like they have been chosen.
Yeah.
The process has chosen them for them now to deliver.
Yeah.
And that's why it has taken so long. So there's a lot, like you say, there's a lot that is so much in limbo. And that is why I think the anger is so intense that anyone or any affiliation with one term automatically, like Micah said, becomes you. Ni kama ukiguza hiyo kitu.
Yeah.
Unakuwa you're rendered.
You become
there.
dust.
You become.
I think that was a very big mistake for Baba. He was on his way to being, like a great statesman, one of the best leaders, like Kenya. But he touching Ruto, unfortunately.
Did you guys see the there's a time, I think, this is recent, I think last week, Sifuna with Akinau Chariot, the way they're going back and forth. There's a video. There's a video of how I think walikuwa wameenda. Is it Migori? I think it was Migori, and DM and Stronghold and KK government or whatever. Ideally, Sifuna is just saying, broad-based government. It's more or less denying them, saying they're not working together. I mean, they are together, but they're not working together. And ini hadharani.
Yeah.
So even, I'm sure within even those circles, and also even with Baba's, sometimes, utterances, not utterances, some things that he says, what Ruto is doing is just wrong. Some of these things are not right. Lakini, bado yuko huko ndani.
Yeah.
But like Micah said, ile pesa natengenezwa.
Yeah, unfortunately they're making a lot of money at people's expense, and politics is one of those places where in Kenya you become rich overnight.
Now Mato da Foster over here says, FYI, Rigiji won't run in 2027, and there won't be a serious presidential candidate from Mount Kenya. There better not be, in my opinion. Apart from sponsored candidates, take that to the PNC Bank.
Well,
Akuna strong. Right now, Mountain, there's no one.
But one X factor people are minimizing, and I think people need to watch carefully, is the Somali vote. And why do I say that? The Somalis have always been undercounted. They've always been very underrepresented, even when it comes to the voter register. But anecdotally, even over the last, and we're not talking about, because I know a lot of times people like to spin this and they will start saying that, how is you a Kenyan? No, they are Kenyans. And they're not the only Kenyans it's not the only community. It's not the only Kenyan community that's cross-border. They're Kenyans. And we know for sure that it is one of those few communities where our age mates still have 5-6 kids, and it's a normal thing. Yeah. People in their 40s, 5-6 kids.
Yeah.
And it's very normal. We know that most of these other, I'll call them mainstream communities, Luos, Kikuyus, Luyas, Kambas, we know people in their 40s are not getting 6 kids.
2. 1.
Yeah. In fact, hata ikifika 3, hiyo hapo umeenda mbali sana.
You're pushing the envelope.
So we know that our watu wamekuwa ni wengi.
Unless your Father Abraham.
Yeah.
Big shout out. Sorry.
Yeah. So when there was, they've been undercounted in census. They've been underrepresented, when it comes to voter registration, look for a surprise from there. And that's why people are underestimating this union that Ruto has with the Somalis. Typically, the Somalis have always hedged their bets. I don't know whether they're going to do that this time. They've always hedged their bets. They always have people on both sides, for the most part. But this time, I think Ruto has worked really hard to try to throw everything at them to make sure that he secures their vote 100%. And
I think the issue will still, like what Micah said, I think the issue is that that chalice, your chalice, it's just like Babu, he's good. Like that shooting.
Yeah.
That shooting.
Yeah.
He can teach, he can come out and there's Omesha. But Iyo too.
No, but there's a lot of MPs who've shot people and they still won their seats.
Yeah, no. I'm that was one. We say ni Didmas.
Baraza.
Yeah, Baraza killed somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
There was a time even Kafogo was being accused of...
Didmas was allegedly seen. Sindio?
Yeah.
Footage ya nani iko?
Okoth Obado. Governor Okoth Obado.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, but you see, like now they're not. It's for Kabogo. it is that one still even to this day.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter what he says. Kuna hiyo,
It always comes up.
it always comes up.
Yeah.
Unaona? Okoth, bado hata akienda kuimba nyimbo za Kristo na nini still comes up. Didmas, si hata akiingia huko Twitter analimwa na hiyo.
Yeah.
Unaget? So again,
2027 will be an
gonna
interesting year. Yeah. Na sijui sasa, like what's gonna happen, especially with the diaspora, because diaspora pia tuko na tabia moja where we talk so much, and then ikifika time of registration, someone wants an app to register.
But also,
Someone wants
bedroom. They want to be able
to vote while they're in their bedroom.
But also, why
can't they be given that opportunity?
Are we gonna be Stuliwad and given 2 weeks to register?
We may not be given any at all. That's the reality of what we should realize. Sikwa ubaya. I think 2 weeks is being nice, but I don't think we're gonna be given the type of time that is necessary. And if we still have the same attitude of bring it to my bedroom, people are not gonna vote.
Yeah, no, I know. Hiyo hapo bring it to my bedroom, hiyo itabaki bado, because there are so many people who will talk, and then they're gonna ask questions. Why can't we vote online? Even up at US, you cannot vote online. Even in the US.
But Ali, we can't, you're right, we can't say that, but unaona sasa watu watasema kwa sababu sisi tuko wengi Texas, mbona isiletwe mahali Texas pale tunaweza enda? Ama juu tuko wengi California, ama tuko sijui wapi, mbona tusiletewe? Na kumbuka watu wa Mexico, in order for them to do it, they have to come into the US and pick one of the 3 stations in order for them to actually register as well as vote, because there is no Kenyan embassy in Mexico.
In Mexico, yeah.
So, and Canada pia iko na issues zake at the same token, So, people it's going to be very interesting, for lack of a better word, I think we as diaspora, to be honest, we just have to say, how bad do you want it? Go wherever you need to go to get this thing to register. Literally, if registration is open for you to go to register to vote, then you can go register to vote even if you happen to be in Kenya. And then you can come here to the US and change your vote, your station from Kenya to here. We saw people who are doing it the first time around. It is possible to do it. But in all honesty, if you happen to be in Kenya, because Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't registration open all through except at the time of voting?
Registration,
when
yes.
You're in Kenya.
Yes, in every constituency, there's a place you can go and find registration. What I don't know is if you can go and register to vote in the diaspora in a constituency in Kenya. I don't think you can do that.
No, you cannot. Okay. Remember, Ali, when we, even like in DC had 3, I think it was 3 registration. What did they call them? Precincts? Or what did they call it? There were 3.
I think they were kind of like words. I don't know whether it's a stream for voting. There's a minimum number. I think it's 600.
I think it's 300 or 200 or something.
I can't remember the number.
And then, so the DC embassy itself had, I think, 3 or 2, something like that. However, you go to Kenya, you register to vote. Hata kama ni Makadara. Ukirudi humu, saa zile watu wanasema, okay, sasa now come to vote, or sijui we are here. You now come to change your vote from Makadara to diaspora. Then you're going to have to come back to vote. Now I'm saying all of this, assuming you happen to be in Kenya. If you don't want to wait to that thing of being caught, then worst case scenario, utapanda tu ndege uende Kenya, you vote. Because you know what time it is, it's August.
Yeah.
Utapanda tu uende. Because saa zingine, at a certain point, we as diasporans have to just say, kama mbaya ni mbaya. And Ali, you saw what we went through in order to vote. Even the time when the Kenyan passports came out, the East African Kenyan passports came out, the time when they were doing the Huduma number, the time when we've had to deal with some, I'd say, stupid decisions for things that are document-oriented or related, And I can only imagine if you live outside, close proximity to and I'm saying close proximity within an hour of the embassy, because even parking at the embassy itself is a problem.
It's a problem,
so
yeah.
we have so many hurdles, and they throw those things at us, and they're done on purpose. And for those of us who have seen these things since day one, we understand why they are playing this game. Because it's not like they really want you people to register. And we are playing into their arms when they've opened up the registration for 2 weeks and 250 people registered.
Yeah, and people don't
or
show
300. Up. And the whole entire US, it was 700
and
people.
then they will say, they announce it on their social media page. That's what they will say. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, like people go to that social media page to see what's happening. Yeah, so this is, we're in a very delicate situation. If we don't get 2027 right, I think as diasporans, it will be that juncture.
As Kenyans in the
don't
US.
think of voting.
Yeah, but as diasporans, that's the point. If we don't get 2027 right, as diasporans, is that where people will have to make a decision. Unajua kuna countries ingine, like if you have friends from maybe countries like Cameroon, someone will easily tell you, I've not been in my country for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very hard to hear that from a Kenyan, unless sans papier. Unless hana hizo magartas.
And these days, Ali, people have no problem with traveling to go home and connect with home.
Yeah.
You know, and guys are no longer afraid. People will go, watatafuta, watasakanya, wakipata mapepa, mtu will sacrifice, atapanda ndege, aende home.
But you know,
so
that's not
are trying to connect.
But you know, that's not accurate for all African countries. If you have a friend from,
correct,
you know, like, it's so easy for someone to tell you that Miss Jakwa home. In fact, there was a Cameroonian friend who was telling me, you Kenyans, you guys are always going back home. Weren't you just home last year?
Last year, yes.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's home.
I go every year.
He was like, why do you go every... So I was asking him, why don't you go? Yeah, so it was weird to them.
They have issues, Ali. Yeah. Like a place like Cameroon, unajua, they have internal strife that's going on, and it's at a religious level. Na kuna vitu nyingi sana zinafanyika that are not coming outside the walls of Cameroon. But when you talk to people who are in neighboring countries of Cameroon, especially Wazairwa, the ones who are, you know, there's a lot of Cameroonians who basically have become Zairwas and have claimed Zairwa DRC. When I say Zairwa, they have claimed DRC citizenship and then end up in Kenya as DRC folks, but they originally watu wa Cameroon, because border ndio hii iko hapa tu. Na hawataki kuenda ile side ya West Africa because they want to be disassociated with the West African bloc. They really want to be associated with Central Africa. So ndio wanakuja hapa DRC, and they're strictly dealing with DRC because DRC is a more friendly passport to carry and to meander and move with than kupata passport ya, let's say umevuka umeenda Ghana, Nigeria, or any one of those other ninis. It's harder for you to immigrate, as you can see even now with the immigration as it is in America. So there's a lot of things that are happening with Cameroon in particular, and a lot of them are political issues that they themselves are either refugees or they can't go back, or kuna kakitu wakirudi pengine kuna vitu za mafamilia, you know, itabidu bebane na panga, you know, so they have issues that are big, and so they don't understand how us guys are doing. Yes,
and also to add on to what Omosh is saying, let me tell you, you'd expect a country like Nigeria to have an airline like KQ. Hawana. Traveling for them to West Africa, when a ticket is costing us 1,500, theirs is 25 to 3,000.
You know,
and when ours is 2,000, theirs is 4,000.
I was shocked to find out that there are people who connect to Kenya,
correct,
to go back to Nigeria.
Yes.
And other West African countries.
Or Ethiopian Airlines.
West African countries.
So you come all the way to East Africa,
yes,
only to go back to...
Yes. My last trip, when coming back, because I took Ethiopian.
Yeah.
You know, Ethiopian will take you to Mombasa.
Yes.
So you have people flying. When we chomoka Mombasa, tukaingia Bole. Bole huko Chrome. Because Nigerians were a lot. They were coming in from wherever in Nigeria. And by the way, yes. So I sat next to this lady and she was telling me that in order for her to go to Enugu State, where she's from, she would have to do a layover in Abuja, then take a 45-minute flight.
Wow.
All that was costing a lot of money. When Ethiopia came and had direct flights from Ethiopia to Enugu, she has been taking that route for over 10 years.
So wait, so Ethiopia now is flying to Enugu?
Yes.
Not. I know they go to Abuja, but now they're
opened. It has opened.
Wow. Okay.
Ethiopian wamefungua. Ethiopia wamefungua. You will find a lot of Nigerians will be flying the Ethiopian flight from here IAD.
Okay. That is interesting.
IAD, because on top of that, those flights are cheap. They are very affordable.
They're affordable, yes.
Yes. The plane itself is one thing in Inganya, lakini
yeah,
unafika.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surely,
yeah.
OneMic, surely. Umeongea hivyo na hao watu wamepewa mawadi.
Wanasema hiyo ndio original cattle class.
Right? So it's
no, kuna mtu anasema cattle class nilicheka ni okay.
So those guys have done, Ethiopia have done, they have opened up. Well, ukisikia they have opened up to Malawi.
Yes.
Malawi. I'm talking about Malawi.
Malawi,
so
I know
Ethiopian
that,
Airlines has opened up the continent.
And you know the way the free air transport agreement, the one that AU has, the way it's supposed to operate, there's some countries that are fighting it. Africa is going to be like the US. Like an airline can come from any country and go to any other country. Right now, like Ethiopian, the flight either has to be from Addis or going to Addis or leaving Addis. Mm-hmm. It cannot fly like from Abuja to
Cote
Cote
there are a
d'Ivoire.
lot of places. There are so many places in Africa. You have to connect through Europe.
Yes. Especially West Africa. Especially West Africa.
Yeah, that's the agreements they have with the routes. Yes, they're
West Africa, the route,
yes.
like
the route
flight in Europe in Africa is one of the hardest things. Like basically, flying within Africa is expensive than flying to America.
Correct, it's very expensive.
In fact, we are very fortunate in East Africa that we have multiple airlines that people can use. To fly locally.
There's KLM. Oh, you're talking about local?
No, I'm talking about local.
Yeah.
I'm talking about local. You know, like even within Kenya, I mean, of course, you have KQ locally. Then you have Jumbo Jet. You have there's a lot of other smaller airlines.
Renegade, Flight 540.
Yes.
Ziko nyingi.
Yeah. So
and even within East Africa, there's KQ. There's Rwanda and there's Air Tanzania.
There's Precision Air too.
And Precision, yeah. So you have a lot of interconnecting flights.
Yeah, and that's the reason
By
why.
the way, is East African Airways still there? I think it was there up to some time, right? Ama ilianguka. No.
Wewe ulikuwa live kama East African Airways.
Hapana, no. When I say hapana, Ali, Micah, East African Airways ile naongea ni hii ilikuwa na fly the same time 540 ilikuja. See East African ingine, it's like, what was that? Am I calling it a different thing?
Maybe
there was a different thing.
What? Okay, hii airline ili
unajua Kenya kuna
okay.
Kenya kuna airline mingi za Somali kama tu
basi. Na pia hizi zinaenda Sudan, hizi za kwenda Juja, ziko nyingi.
Za kwenda Juba
za Somalia.
Yeah, so we have to be very how do I put it? We have to be very grateful, you know, like to have been born in Kenya, because wetembea nchi zingine Afrika ndo utakuja kujua. Me, in fact, one goal that I have within the next 5 years I want to visit at the bare minimum at least 10 different African countries. Because we do not
Niko
travel
nafikiri
within
utasema
Africa.
20.
20 years, that's a high goal.
Ka index fund katalimwa.
That's a high goal. Hiyo
Hata
hapo
Mimi
sika
20
index
ni
fund,
hard.
No,
maybe
20
20.
African countries.
Mika akona points. Mika
No.
akona points. He can share them.
No,
to us.
African countries, unaona kwanza place kama South Africa. South Africa
Yeah.
is kind of like a mixed bag. Nataka kukiwa na sevens huko next year. I want to plan and go there.
South Africa for you is easy, Ali. If you have an East African passport, I don't need visa, unaenda tu. So it's easy for you. You know the hard thing about Kenya, travel in Africa, apart from
Visa.
the flights, is visas.
Yeah.
Yes, it's becoming very,
It's
very
visas.
sad and
It's
hard.
yeah.
Yes.
It's visas. So hiyo ndio itakusumbua like.
But sasa, are you traveling as a Kenyan or are you traveling as an American?
Yeah,
But
in some
American
cases it doesn't matter. Some cases it doesn't matter.
There's some cases where your American passport can help you, pengine itakusaidia. But still, all in all, you'll have to plan that trip. Like there's some countries you'll have to plan from America as an American. Ukienda ukizihit kama American, utakuwa passport bro.
Yeah.
Ukichapa pa. Ukipiga. Alafu kuna zingine zenye hiyo ya komesa East African, ukienda East African, Central African, Southern African block, passport yako itakusaidia.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So kuna ile trip utapanga kutoka Nairobi na kuna trip utapangia kutoka DC, ndo uchape hizo country zako 20.
We, hiyo hapo
Correct.
hiyo hapo tutajua ama tufanye kama vile Wanjeri anachapa road trip, anaenda sijui how many countries.
Sasa unajua Ali, your road trip, the thing that what Mika
That
brought
thing
up,
is
which
scary.
he didn't say,
Yeah.
is hapo kwa road trip, the time you spend at the border kuvuka,
That's
hapo ndio pali
problem.
utashika dabu yako.
Yeah, na hiyo time ndio sina.
Hapo kwa road trip unapata kitu namba kufanya, kitu watu wengi hawajaga kufika. Watu wengi ikifika ni road trip wanataka walale, waamke jua imewaka, wa drive sasa na msafara. No. Ukipiga hizi inter-country road trip, mnaamka ngwari. Mnafika border saa zile ndo
It's
wameamka.
dusk. Okay. Ndio
You know,
wameamka, okay.
So nyinyi mnatoka Nairobi 4. Unaona ali mnatoka Nairobi 4.
Yeah.
Mnafika lunga saa 2 asubuhi. Mnachapa hiyo 6 sasa, mnaichapa hiyo na hiyo giza yote mkienda. Like mnamtoka 3 hapo 3-4 mnapiga na giza.
Yeah.
Like mkifika hapo kwa boda ndo wamefunga ofisi, ndo watu wameanza kuchangamka.
You know,
Amkutani na trafiki ya matruck sijui ya nini, mnapita mnaenda. Hiyo siku mnapumzika, mna drive half the day, mnafika labda tuseme mna chill dash kukaa 2. Siku ile mnatoka Dar tena mnatoka Ngware asubuhi. Ngware by the time mnachapa like basically mnajua pale kuna points, road checks nini place mna hit points zenu, mnataka kuzihit before a shower hiyo place ifike. Watu wengi utakati tulale, tuamke, tutoke saa 4 saa 5 saa 5 utoke na normal
tuende
traffic.
tutafute
Life
restaurant.
juu unapiga road bana, life juu unapiga road trip. Life inaendelea. Pali watu wanaendelea na maisha yao.
No,
So utakangana na stress yao.
pali mimi ningependa, you know, like I'd love to be in a random African country, you know, like Zambia. Yani just, you know, that's an experience that I've never really had. Just in a random place where you are the foreigner, na watu wakujui we ni nani, nione tu vile kutaenda.
Alafu viko wanza kusema, excuse me, you mjukuu wa Masai?
No, that can never happen.
Atawapata kwanza, they'll be speaking to him in Swahili.
No, that can never happen in certain...
In Zambia.
Unaona countries kama Zambia, but Zambia there are some Swahili speakers.
Yes, they have them.
Yeah,
all the way.
Zambia they do have. They share
Other
border
than
with
them speaking
Tanzania.
Shona, but they have them.
Yeah, they do share border with Tanzania. Malawi too has quite a number of Swahili speakers. Yeah, but hizo countries, those are the places that I would like to go. You know, niende tu randomly, nikachil tu mahali, and I think once that African travel starts opening up, I think we're gonna be more friendlier to each other. than we are.
I think even in addition to being more friendlier, we will probably just be more open to, learning about others. Because, the only time we learn about others is mchongo wano.
Yeah. No,
That's the only other time we career. We don't take the time to learn, maybe here we'll be given a history lesson, by Micah. We'll be given something, we'll learn about something, we'll come, we'll demarcate somebody. But other than that, maybe we'll learn about Julius Nyerere, but, all we'll learn is about Idi Amin and what he did, the Madawadani that he did.
Yeah.
Right? It's in essence, you opening up the borders allows you to learn. You can imagine how, to Europe. You remember when Jerry was here?
Yeah.
The rugby fan.
Yeah.
How at one point it's like she got a visa or whatever, Schengen or whatever it is, and then she just went traveling.
Traveling by train.
By train.
Yeah.
You're going, you're experiencing different people, cultures, foods, whatever. You can imagine, like,
the ignorance that's there in Africa. Unakumbuka that time when kulikuwa na ile reality show ile ya Diamond. I can't remember what it was called. I don't know, Young, Famous, Rich African, something like that.
Young, Rich and African.
Yeah, you're Young, Rich and African. Me, I think first of all...
Young, Famous and African. Walitoa hiyo rich.
Okay.
Walionamo kwa rich, walikuwa rich.
Walikuwa na rich. No, there was that chick who was Diamond walikuwa nakatiana na Diamond. And I don't know whether it was... Yeah. No, hapana. No, ni huyo rapper. Like ule mwenye alikuwa...
Ule rapper ule Atlanta, ule alikuwa country gani? Alikuwa rapper, but...
She's from a West African country.
Atlanta.
She's from a West African country. Ghana.
Yeah.
There was something that she said, and I was like, I hope they're just doing this for the show. Alikuwa anasema ati she's never heard of a country called Malawi. And I'm like... Okay, this is not good. Even if they're just doing it for the show, and I think maybe she really had never heard of a country called Malawi.
I would not be surprised.
I
would not be surprised, my brother.
Alitoka Ghana gani mtu huyu akaenda kusomea Atlanta. Huko Atlanta nani alifundisha juu ya Malawi?
No, lakini come on. Unajua hata kama sijaenda Eastern Europe, I know there's a country called Latvia. At least
Ali, you have to give.
Kitu moja unafaa kuangalia ni angalia education systems za different countries. In America history, they only teach American history, and that even that
Correct.
American history they warp it up. Wanafundisha certain aspect of it. And remember, most people get their knowledge of things on education. Alafu huyu pia ni mtu mwenye ajareiziwa kama jenzi wa sahi, like kuna internet, anaweza ingia TikTok, anaweza ingia app gani, one vitu zenye akwa ajaiona kwa maisha yake. Hiyo age yake ni mtu aliget internet, let's say kama iko in their teens.
There was an episode niliwatch Amazing Race, very amazing show to watch. There was a season I watched where the guys were taken to Accra. So now one of the challenges to go to the next stage of where they were was they were in a primary school, and then there were kids. The kids were showing them a map of Africa that has all the countries, and they were telling them, point the country that you're in right now.
There you go.
Now imagine you travel to that country. You've not even bothered to find out where it is on the map. Do you know people are pointing all the way to the east?
Yes.
And I'm like...
Also understand, I have met people who the last way from Kenya. Is that in the West?
No, but you've traveled to that country.
I get it.
Angalia, you up at least you can you've traveled to that umeingia ndege.
Umeenda huko.
You umeenda huko.
Yeah.
And you still cannot identify where it is on a map.
Again, Micah said something that was very important. There are very many people, very many Americans. Some of them even Chinese, some of them even Asian. They have never heard of the Chinese Exclusion Act, ever.
No, your Chinese Exclusion Act.
Not many.
No, but I can understand what wa hawasomi. You unless kama ni mtu wa kusoma, you hear about
and
it.
That goes back to what Micah was saying in terms of what is taught. Because even the history they teach here is not. They're banning books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes, like when you hear somebody there about Malawi, believe I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take you with a pinch of salt, but okay.
Yeah. The other interesting place I should have been that I've never been to is Uganda. So if you are Ugandan, yes, please invite me.
You can just go there.
Yeah. No, I can't just. What do you mean you can just go there?
Oh, you
I've never been there.
Oh, okay. You need to be invited.
Of course, kwani naingia tu, you don't just go in a place that you don't know.
Why?
Eh?
Be like Dombolo, enda tu.
I don't know. But Ugandans,
but you know, you remember some of the pals used to live in Silver Spring. When they Rwanda, they moved to Rwanda, back to Rwanda. I used to hang out with them. Oku Silver Spring.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about.
I don't.
And I know you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Jamas, not chicks, Jamas.
I totally don't. But anyway, what about them?
No, I'm saying like someone like that can find a way to might know even somebody in Uganda.
Yeah.
I'll remember the name. I'll try and remember the name, but they relocated back to Uganda, back to Rwanda.
Yeah.
Lakini walikuwa naishi huko Silver Spring.
Yeah.
So I mean, traveling is good, but I think, like Micah is saying, I think they need to facilitate visas.
They need to make it easier. They need to make it cheaper. Like it is in Shenzhen. But sasa unaona kuna hiyo what do you call it? There's this overhang on these colonial borders that people have, which doesn't make any sense.
We need to reprogram our mentality. We just need to deconstruct and then reconstruct. Yeah. Na wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Micah, ouch!
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for keeping us company today on this lovely Friday. And summertime tumetoka break, unaweza feel watu wametoka break. Unaona wanaweka machoka, wamesema tuende home mapema leo. Anyway, we shall see you next weekend, next Friday. Summertime imefika, lakini hii summer imekuja na mvua manze. Ayanzi mvua joto, mvua joto, mvua. But all in all, it's weather to be outside. Everybody's enjoying time with their families. Remember, don't drink and drive. Take care of yourself. COVID imerudi, jifunikeni. Shauri yenu. Kwanza wamesema imetoka China, ni mpya, iko na steroids. Yes. Remember, take care of yourself, be careful, and have a nice weekend.
Asante wasikilizaji, wachangiaji na mafans. Mikasi, umesema ati COVID imekuja na nini? Unanisikia? Okay.
Nilikuwa nimemute. There is a new strain of COVID.
What are the symptoms? Do you know what the symptoms are? Because I'm suspecting there's some things that I'm seeing that are happening. Ni COVID, lakini inakuja ni kama it's like something else. Ni kama energy mask, ni kama ni food poisoning hivi. Unazijua?
But what I tell you that there is a brand new COVID that's coming.
There's a new strain. Okay.
It's a new strain and it's strong and dangerous and what. So take care of yourself. Like if you can mask, if you can sanitize, wash your hands, like just prevent yourself. If you're in places like planes or trains, wear mask.
Okay.
It's a risk.
Yeah. Okay. Watu mumesikia. And by the way, that's somebody who's in healthcare. So asanteni. Micah, since you didn't talk about it, I'm going to ask you Champions League.
Champions League?
Yes.
PSG Inter?
Yes. Winner?
Nataka kusema PSG.
Na hiyo game ni kesho, sindio?
But the Italian Catenaccio is going to win. Yeah, game ni kesho.
Yeah. Wow.
The game is tomorrow. Yeah. This is the first time in 24 years, 25 years, that the finalist has not come from England, Germany, or Spain.
Oh, wow.
At a what?
25 years.
Say it again.
The first time in 25. It's either 25 or 24 years that the finalists have not come from Germany, England, or Spain.
Meaning there's no Ronaldo or Messi.
No, like those three countries always have a team in the final.
Correct.
So yeah, this is the first time that time as Japan. And do you know the last time it happened?
When was the last
finals.
time?
The last time ilikuwa when Mourinho won his first UCL championship, Porto versus Monaco. When Monaco defeated Inter in the semis and Porto defeated Manchester United in the semis.
Huh. Wow. So are you thinking, is this why we're not talking about it, because we're not seeing our traditional strongholds? So people are kind of like, it's just another Champions League? Because I'm not seeing
I wouldn't say
that.
I
about
wouldn't say that. No. That's just say maybe the TV hype about it is not there. Maybe here. In other places it's very big.
Okay.
I know in
Kenya
there's a very big watch party for it. In Europe, if you listen to the Arabian TV, it's a big, because let's be honest.
Yeah.
This was a very entertaining semifinals.
Yes, leading up to it.
Right?
Yes.
Actually, from the quarterfinals, all games were entertaining, right? But then semifinals, if you watch the semifinals, Arsenal PSG, that was a good game, right? But then if you watch Inter Barcelona, that was one hell of a
That was a wild game. Yeah.
Yes, you didn't know which way it was going. Yes,
you didn't know. Yeah, like it was so basically, here we are going to see again two teams, right? PSG, who played the modern dominating football here, but like a pass, sexy football, and then we're going to have a complete old school team in Inter who are coming with that Italian catenaccio. Ile boli yao wangani defense first, lakini ni tunacheza boli ya every pass means something. Amtafunga tunaweza funga, but pia mkifunga tunaweza funga. So it's going to be an exciting game. People are expecting a game that's electric as how the Inter Barcelona semifinals was going to be. I hope PSG come out guns blazing. Apple, you just hope that
your midfield, PSG.
Vita,
Your midfield, PSG.
But midfield, Inter pia si mbaya. Mimi nataka kwenda bora nataka kuvicha na nani. Unajua jamani Mluya, lakini ni Mluya mzungu hiyo kuvicha Kvaratskhelia. Unasikia jina ya Kiluya? Vita na Dembele to be on their top form, and then I want to see that Inter defense handling them. Napo takuwa na game, but that's going to be a very exciting game. For me, I'm giving it to Inter 2-1.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to see PSG win. PSG wamekuwa kinyemelea kitu for a very long time. I feel bad for Kylian Mbappe, especially if PSG wins after alitoka kwenda Real Madrid to win. But I think also him leaving allowed them to structure their game outside of him. Because
it allowed Nani to build his team. The coach.
It allowed the coach
Enrique
to build his team. Because he was such a larger-than-life personality in PSG.
On the field, yes.
On the field and even off the field. So it just had to be about Mbappe. But clearly it shows that this is a team sport. And you see the interesting thing is that we have teams that we're not used to in the Champions League finals and then the NBA finals. It's also the same thing. Teams that we're not used to. The only problem is that and that's unfortunately how sports has been fed. The ratings of the NBA, for example, have been tanking because
Lakers watolewe si watu waleta kuona playoffs.
Yeah, watu waleta kuwatch playoffs.
But you guys you're not seeing that series of Niniko and excitement.
I'm watching.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting, no doubt, in terms of the game, but people are just not watching. People are just not watching.
You know, there are fans.
Yes.
And then those fans who want the excitement, like the
name,
showbiz, the showbiz of the
Yes.
game, right? You remember like
Correct.
when
That makes sense.
Boston and Lakers were playing.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
The game was good, but also the story around the game.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah, so sai utaongea jia nani bwana?
It's like when
back in his tab.
It's like when San Antonio would play. It wasn't exciting.
The biggest
It wasn't
story from
exciting, yeah.
the
But they
biggest
won 5
story from
chips.
NBA right now is Zion Williamson.
Ay, amefanya nini tena?
I may lose weight. I don't know.
Oh.
No, Zion amefanya tabia mbaya.
Hi, Omosh.
So, you know, yeah, okay, as you've heard, there's still sports that's coming down the pipe. So, kesho, kuna game. NBA finals start on, Micah, I think it's Tuesday, or is it Monday?
June 5th or June 6th, one of those.
Yeah, so they're about to wrap it up because we are now looking at one team has already been picked. It's Indiana. So now we're waiting on the other one to see what's going to happen.
Indiana hasn't been picked.
Is it? No?
No, Indiana.
Who was it?
It is Korea, Oklahoma, Thunder.
OKC, sorry. OKC
Yeah.
beat Indiana, my bad. Yeah, OKC beat them.
Yeah.
And so now, OKC beat, I forget who they beat. Was it
The Timberwolves.
What?
Minnesota
No,
Timberwolves.
Minnesota, yes.
Minnesota.
So then now it's the Indiana and New York series. Correct?
You're Komoto.
Yeah. And
That's good.
man, if New York come back and take this,
Oh my God.
that's going to be a story.
Iko ni 3-1.
3-2.
3-2.
Oh, it's 3-2.
Going back to Indiana.
3-2, and they're going back to Indiana.
Damn.
And you know, New York is the higher seed.
Damn. So one of
Indiana-
my game
Indiana-
7.
So game 7
Game 7 will be in New York.
would be New York.
When is the next game?
Indiana
Tomorrow.
Indiana to Alabama.
Kesho. Next game ni
Indiana
kesho.
to
So kesho there are two
Kesho kuna
games
game-
you want to watch.
Kesho
Yes.
kuna game mbili moto.
Yes. That you
Yeah,
want to watch.
because
basketball
if New
and,
York
nini.
if New York wins, now the finals will be
tied,
very
3-3.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the
If-
finals now will have a very high rating.
If Indiana do not close. However, let's not forget, Indiana stole 2 from New York.
They stole 2 from New York, so I think New York has a good
They
chance
have
of
they have
coming
a
back.
chance, yes.
Yeah,
We shall
so it's something else to see and watch for us. And guys, I guess we're going to be back here next weekend. Pia Kipfia ndio inakuja at the end of the month, Kipfia Rugby, for those our fans who are out there.
Unasahau
in between.
tuliambiwa kuna Eid next week.
Mi ndo ndakuwa
Ndio,
Eid.
Ali, Ebu explain for us the Eid, since I think we have like maybe a minute or so. Just explain for us Eid hiyo kitu inakuja, because inaonekana kuna kambuzi tutakula kwako, lakini Ebu explain.
Well, hiyo mbuzi that's questionable, but hii hapa ni idile, kuna ile idile ambayo inafuata Ramadhani ikiisha, na kuna hii Eid ambayo inafuata watu wakitoka pilgrimage. This is the time in hiyo month ya pilgrimage. So right after the pilgrimage ndo hii hapa. In Kenya inaitwa Idi kubwa. Ile Idi ya Ramadhani inaitwa Idi ndogo.
Okay, so Idi kubwa ya pilgrimage
Inaitwa Eid al-Adha.
Yeah.
So Ali, Idi kubwa hii is the one where you come back from pilgrimage and is it the one you're giving to the poor, or did I understand it wrong?
No. You this one unachinja.
Yes, so unachinja, but what is the other thing?
So I think the one that you're talking about, if you're talking about zakat, kuna Idi ndogo ile Ramadhan, there are 2 levels of zakat that you give. Kuna zakatul fitr, which is the equivalent of it's equivalent of a plate of food within the jurisdiction that you live in. And then of course there's a zakat that unalipa 2.5% of money that, or rather of money and assets that you've held for over 1 year. So hiyo hapo ni zakatul mali, hiyo ni zaka ya mali hiyo hapo. And that one doesn't necessarily have to be given during Ramadan. Hiyo inaweza kuwa ni any designated time of the year that you wish to do so. And then sasa kuna hii Idi kubwa, hii hapa ni Idi ya kuchinja, and then you share you share hiyo nyama.
Iko estate tulikuwa na familia kanda za Kiislamu. Tulikuwa tuna sosi. Doni, unajua na rounda courts. Like
yes, correct. A lot of those were built with those rounders, yes.
Sasa imagine rounda moja ilikuwa na nyumba ka 12 alafu 4 za Waislamu, ile kusilikuwa tuna sosi. Hii ndio kubwa, hatukuwa tunaenda chuo. Unakula mpaka kichwa inakuuma.
What?
Okay.
Vile Ali amesema unachinja na
Ali,
kushare.
since this is coming on a Friday, inaonekana sasa wewe utakuwa
Ali si anachinja.
you'll
Si
be
anatuambia
pilgrimage. No, lakini si amesema yeye hata hatutakula, so hata kama anachinja mbona sisi tusiende tukule naye?
Sinyi mtakuwa hapa kwa show. Mtakula ama mtakuwa kwa show?
No, Ali, kama unachinja show hakuna. We are telling you now and on air when everyone is hearing. I just don't want you to think that there's things going a different way. Because kuna wale watabeba na watoto kutoka Baltimore watakuja kula. And I won't say who. Tuendelee. Back to you, studio.
All right. Asante sana DJ OmoshFaya. And thank you so much to all those who tuned in. We'll give you updates on what's coming up. Kama mmesikia next week, Mr. kuwa hapa, itakuwa ni siku ya Idi.
Next week tunaenda kusosi.
Yeah. But hao wengine tutajua kama watakuja au kama hawatakuja. But I want to thank you. I want to thank all those who tuned in. Na wale walikuwa wanatusikiza kwa YouTube, kwa Facebook, na kwa wale ambao wanataka kunipigia simu, namba bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Operator kishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui.
Just Uno, before you go in,
Yes.
I want to make a special shout out to the late Ngugi wa Thiong'o. I was remiss in mentioning, to those who don't know, we lost a literal icon, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and a lot of us did his, what are they called, set books or literature books or whatever in literature. And yes, we lost a literal champion for Africa, Kenya, East Africa. Back to you, Uno.
R.I.P. to Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Aiden, Daddy loves you. Njeri, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. Or the week after. Barikiweni.
Asanteni watu wetu.